The games are about to begin. 4 best of 3s. I know a long day, but just like Fresh was saying, it's Siege all day, every day here at the Major. We're so happy for you to join us here. Now we've revealed everything. The desk, the trophy, the amount of cash everybody's winning, the teams, the stage, and we are ready to go. Our final pointers here before we start off with our game, which, as our good friend Steve/Ian over on the stage has said, well, it's W7M versus Black Dragons. Black Dragons have been a quintessential part, I would say, of Rainbow Six Esports since literally day one, since before Brazil was even part of Pro League, and they're still keeping it strong. It's been a while since we've seen them at the playoffs, but they're up here now.
Yeah, it's been nice to see them. Like you say, the org we've seen time and time again. This roster, maybe not so much because there's still quite an inexperienced roster going on over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been together, that core roster, for only 9 months. But I think what they've built is really interesting. It's the first major together. It's all a learning experience. I think getting out of groups is already really good. The rest here is bonus, is learning, and they have no pressure on them right now, which is amazing.
Made it to playoffs, and your first time you make it to majors, pretty impressive, is it not, Fresh?
It's pretty impressive, but there is a but there. With that lack of experience, you know, we saw them in rehearsals yesterday. I'm looking at Cyber and Bullet from FaZe, just dancing around, chilling, very, very loose, very happy. Black Dragon seemed very rigid. First time going through the rehearsals for the walk-ons and the things like that. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking because the groups are one thing. Playoff and the stage is a whole different experience for them. So they just need to not succumb to that inexperience. But, you know, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be competitive.
If anything, playing against another Brazilian team may be something that helps them in this, because W7M and Black Dragons have played one another multiple times over the past year or so. Even though these rosters are different, players have experience with all of them. Now, W7M on the other side, undefeated in the group stage. I'm sure Fresh predicted that completely before we went into it. But what do you have to do here?
I think it's going to be really hard, to be honest. They faced each other a month ago in the Copa de Elites, and W7M beat them 2-1. I think in general, W7M, I mean, they're just dominating Brazil, which is already the best region, I think, in my opinion. Like, dominating when you've got FaZe, Liquid, Furia, like, so many really good teams to face. Like, I think it's crazy how they've developed, and they're there for 3 consecutive majors too, right?
And I think the thing that differentiates them this major compared to Berlin and Charlotte, I'm not even excluding. I'm excluding Charlotte. Charlotte is a little bit of a, you know, Charlotte happened. Berlin, when they went out, they looked that little bit inexperienced. They were very emotionally high and low. Now, the difference now is they've got Julio. Julio has been there. He's been there. He's done it. He's got that experience. And he will keep them in that middle range in terms of their emotion. He'll keep them focused. And you don't just see it around the place. You see it in the games as well, where when they've strategically lost a round, they find a way of winning it. And that's what that experience brings you. And I think that's one of the big reasons why they went flawless in their group.
I mean, we're talking about Black Dragons as a staple of Rainbow Six Esports and Brazilian esports, especially way back in the day. We're also talking about Julio, who really got his big start with Black Dragons in those days. And that's how it all started. This is how experienced we're talking about with Julio. I mean, I've known the man since 2014, and he's been still competing and doing very well for himself, especially considering the small change of careers that he's had for a tiny moment this year.
Yeah, he had a little bit of time in there coaching, didn't he? Keeping himself fresh whilst the team opportunity came up, and then it came up with the best team, and he's improved them, so.
I think you could have seen it as a bet to replace GDN too, because GDN was an amazing support, but I think that might just be the missing piece for them to finally be a title contender and win an event.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of people really, and like it is that little missing piece, because you look at them on the statistics. Do they have the best attack rate? No. Do they have the best defense rate? No. Do they plant the best? No. Do they get the best entry? No. But they just keep finding a way to win. They've got that raw firepower. You know, we haven't even spoke about KZ yet, who's got that just raw firepower where he's just running through absolutely everybody that he encounters.
Best player in the major by far, and an incredible rating across the full year.
That group stage was incredible, seeing him tear through everybody.
I mean, flawless in the group of death, guys. Flawless in the group of death.
That's
incredible.
Impressive. Impressive to say the least, but let's remember, they were stopped by FaZe in the semifinals in Berlin, and it didn't look super pretty. So maybe that experience, how difficult will it be? We'll have to see here against Black Dragons. Our pick and ban is up. A reminder for those that are just joining us. Hello. 9 map pools is what we have and what we've had for quite a while here in Rainbow Six Esports. And we are down with Black Dragons banning the first map. They start off with Theme Park first. So they start off on defense. So of course, you pick the map. Your opponents pick the starting side. That's how it works. W7M on Villa, where they start off on the attack. And finally, W7M will ban out Bank to take us to Border, generally speaking, about the map ban, what are your thoughts, Alfama?
Well, I think there is a very big surprise here.
Yep.
We knew W7M had a really big map pool, 8 maps out of 9. The only map they weren't playing was Theme Park, and they let it through. So Black Dragon picks it, right? But now, Julio said in his interview, we play all maps well.
Yep.
All maps, including Theme now.
I think both me and Alfama, I think we agree.
Yeah.
We think Black Dragons have been baited into picking a bad map, or a bad preference map for W7M, because they ban away Theme a lot. But also, so do Black Dragons. Black Dragons have gone to a low preference map to try and target W7M's low preference map. W7M have gone to a mid preference map of Villa to target Black Dragon's low preference map. So I think the overall map pool, especially if W7M have baited this out, really does suit W7M.
And in the end, I think if it goes to decider with Border, I think both teams are really comfortable on it. But like Jack said, I think in general, the map veto favors W7M. Just seeing how big the map pool is and seeing how shallow Black Dragons is, it just makes sense.
Well, let's then focus on Theme Park first. Now, this, you're saying it's a surprise. Both teams ban it regularly, but W7M have had changes, and that experience from Julio, that's why we highlighted it earlier, might be the key that they need, Jack.
Well, it's exactly that. If Julio said, oh, we play all maps well, and they've said, do you know what, whilst you're in this roster, let's just keep Theme Park away. We feel like we can win Brazil and Copa Elite, and we can get through to playoffs without playing Theme Park, throw it out in playoffs.
Does that mean they're saving strats?
Saving maps, saving strats. Potentially, we don't know what to expect from W7M on this map because we've not seen it all year.
It's actually, we make a lot of fun around it, but when I was a player, I knew like the more you hide, the better it is. It's actually true, like you want to have the most advantage possible on your opponent, and hiding maps is really important there.
One thing that I will say, specifically attaining to Theme Park, is the way that Black Dragons play, their play style. I've called them the vegans of Brazil because they are so plant-focused in their play style. They don't have the same play style as any other Brazil team because they're so objective-focused. Potato's got the most plants in this tournament. Theme Park is a map that can enable that. It's big, it's got a lot of options with which sides you come at the map from on all of the sites. If Black Dragons can find a way to get in and get those plants down, they really could have a good time because they do focus on that.
A plant-based team.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue with that is that in order to get to the plants, you're right in saying Theme is...
You've got to fight through KZ.
Yeah, you've got to fight through KZ, and it's such a huge map. You've got to gain so much control before reaching the execution, and you're going to have to face incredible, highly skilled roamers to arrive there, and if you're slow and methodical, timing might be a problem.
Okay, more things to worry about. Starting side is Black Dragons on defense.
Yep.
Is that something that can help them kind of establish a footing? Because there's a lot of nooks and crannies you can use and abuse in Theme Park.
I think they have to get off to a good start, right? And I think that's, it's one of them. W7M have therefore chosen to go onto the attack. And I think they want to put the focus onto the attack on really putting Black Dragons under pressure, because what do you expect on Theme Park? A 4-2 split if you're defending it, right?
Yeah, I think you should at least aim for 4 rounds.
Yeah, so if you don't get those 4 rounds as Black Dragons in your first game, on the map that you've chosen to try and upset W7M, you're under a world of pressure after that first half.
And starting an attack on Theme is a staple of confidence, I think. If you're choosing to attack, that means you're the one that is willing to control the pace of the game. And I see W7M doing that in every game they're playing.
I mean, that's how you go flawless in the group stage, right?
Yeah. You back yourself and you don't worry about what your opponent's doing. Attacking it.
There they are.
Look how confident they look. They know that they can go out, get as many rounds on the attack, and then defend it out from there. That's their confidence. That's their prerogative. And obviously, they've hidden this map.
Okay, then if we talk about specific operators, then maybe Black Dragons can use, because all of this is just saying, hey, W7M have a massive advantage in the entire pool. Maybe if we get to a map 3, they'll have something to work with, but that's a tall order currently, with Villa being the second map. Is there anything for Theme that they can do to disrupt W7M? Because we know W7M is a team that can slip through the lines. They have all the players for it. What information operators can they use or ban or really cripple the attack in the beginning new?
I think it's going to be really hard for them to have prep-specific operators because obviously W7M haven't showed Theme Park. But if I am in their shoes right now, what I'm trying to do is gather as much intel as I can on the early rounds, try and see how W7M is approaching the map, and then react about this in the next defenses.
What if you just lose the Valkyrie? Everybody bans Valkyrie.
I think they would want to go for things that enable them. You might even see something like a Cade. Keep Thatcher open, because W7M don't strike me as a team that's going to play too much for the objective, too much for the walls. It's going to be that brute force of coming through, getting play the kills. So keeping operators open that enable your plants, Thatcher, you know, any breaching operators that just enable you to get in the building. Honestly, KZ has been playing loads of Melusi. When he gets onto the defense, you'd expect him to be one on the front line, up oppressive on the top dragon stairs or the cafe side. Maybe even get rid of that. Just take something comfortable away from W7M. It might work out.
Yeah, you could try and really abuse the natural crossfires in the map to have strict and steady defenses and not let anything through. Just control a little bit of zones, but really well, with a lot of traps.
But what about Nook?
What about Nook? I mean, if Nook is...
What about Nook heavy?
I mean, Nook can go in and try and get a frag. If you're in a really good crossfire position, she gets raided, and then you just lose it.
Nook heavy?
You probably, yeah, and this is the line that I was going down in, like, don't ban your Thatchers. Don't ban your traditional bans on your attack, especially if you're starting defense first. Ban the kind of crutch things. You know, if you think we might crutch a Ying or a Dokkaebi or a Nook or an Ossa or any of those kind of crutches, or a Monty. We see a lot of Monty on Theme Park. I'm not so sure W7M would play Monty, but those kind of operators are ones that would enable the defense start and then also allow you to have your Thatchers open, to have your breaches open, to play your style.
Any final thoughts then on this? Are we expecting W7M to run away with it?
I think the map veto favors them, like we said, but I think there is room for Black Dragons to at least take one map, and if they get one, then the decider is actually pretty equal, so there is still a way Black Dragons upsets them.
I'm gonna shill Black Dragons this one, because everyone else is thinking W7M are gonna win. I've already wrote W7M off in groups, so I'm gonna go for Black Dragons.
Wait, is that the CEO of Black Dragons that's really cheering for them here on the... Wow, that's crazy. I would never believe that that would be the case here, but there it is. Huge support, at least, for the team. And Black Dragons, both of these teams are very well known in the region.
Yeah.
Both of them are still fresh from the oven.
It's important, actually, to say in terms of this regional rivalry, the head-to-head between these two teams. And I am going to be sorry for Black Dragons fans. It doesn't look good.
Ow.
It doesn't look too good. Black Dragons only took a map off W7M in Copa Elite. They lost to them every single time in the BR6, in the regular play, and then lost to them over the best of 3, 2-1 in Copa Elite.
Yeah, I think in general W7M are the heavy favorites here, but like I said, I'd love to see an upset. I'd love to see a lot of fighting. I'd love to see a 3-map match, you know. It's, like I said, the pressure is on W7M to perform here. Everybody is expecting them to at least reach Grand Final, if not winning the event. On the other side, people don't have such high expectations for Black Dragons, and that's a weapon they can use.
Does that give you a freedom, or does it give you pressure? Because
I think
just go out and play.
The pressure's on W7M. They're the ones that made it to the semis last day. This is like the perfect game for them to try to win and make it to at least the semis, right?
Yes, but at the same time, I understand your point, because I've been in their shoes. First time you go on the stage, you see the crowd. Every time you die, there is a huge bass, and you see people cheering. All this stuff, it's not like at home. You can't play the same way. So that's still going to impact them. Whereas W7M, 3rd consecutive major, I think they're experienced now.
And it's best of 3. That's something that might have aided BO1s, might have aided both of these teams, let's be honest, in the group. So, final thoughts?
I think it's going to be a tricky one. I think there's no doubt about it. For Black Dragons, it's going to be a tricky one to navigate this against the most favorite team in the tournament. But they do have that surprise factor. They do have that no pressure added to them, and they do have their unique playstyle. That's what they've got going for them, and they feel that they've picked a map that W7M are weak at. They've got factors that they can rely on, but whether they'll be good enough to overcome probably the best team in this tournament, I'm not sure.
Well, let's see. Can BD upset in the first map, or will W7M run away with it as they start off on the attack? It's Theme Park, and we kick off the group stage. Well, that's done. Now we're in the playoffs. Thank you very much, Fresh and Leo. We are on to our casters. Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Milos. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to start the playoff stage here of the Jönköping Major. We'll be going live with our first matchup in just a couple of seconds here, and it is bound to be a good one. A very interesting playoff bracket that we ended up with, fully regional until we get to the semifinals, and in some cases, staying regional all the way to the final here. Stokes, let's get your initial thoughts on this first map here, as we're getting ready to dive into it, I believe, right now.
Man, I am so excited to be here in Jönköping, and I'm excited to be casting this Brazilian on Brazilian bout. It's W7M versus Black Dragons. Now, I do have to say, I am favoring W7M, as with a lot of the crowd. Yes, exactly. But Black Dragons, they have an opportunity here. You heard what they were saying on the analysis desk. Black Dragons, they don't have that much weight on their shoulders. There's not a lot of pressure on them, unless they're putting it on themselves. So let's get through this ban phase and see how they want to try and handle this offensive side. W7M is going to be starting us off with Nook. This has been a priority throughout the tournament, but also one for them as well.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting series overall for Black Dragons, considering how little these maps they've played into in the past few months. Haven't seen them play into either of the 3 selected at this tournament as well. For W7M, a little bit different, of course, but Black Dragons has been hiding these throughout most of the group stage. And even going back to like CES as well, from what I could find, didn't really see any plays on these 3 maps. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting one for W7M to read into specifically, because they're going to have to rely only off of what they've more than likely played BD in like scrims and whatnot there, and that's assuming they're actually doing that. Bans are proceeding pretty much as we would expect here, though. The Dokkaebi one going to be quite interesting, but once more, like a lot of the bans in this tournament, relying pretty heavily on the map to make that selection, and that applies here just as well. Mute will be the final defender ban, and that one's going to be a little bit interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely, especially when it comes to theme park. Mute, he gets a lot done for walls and other things along those lines. He's also obviously really, really good against drones, which is really important when it comes to the clear here on theme park, which is one of the most difficult ones inside of our map pool. And when it comes to sites armory, also the hardest one to try and crack when it comes to those sites. So that's where W7M is going to start us off. We're probably going to see them expand their horizons, move over to things like the Kaid or maybe some bandit batteries down the line, but it really looks like they only want the electro claws for this one, so they're going to have to pick and choose the walls that they really want. They'll more than likely favor the back end of Throne, usually because this double wall up here over towards the yellow side, it's just really easy to get due to the verticality.
All right, so Black Dragons here. Already at least one operator reselect, and we're getting an interesting choice right off the bat from the Black Dragons as well. The Sense coming into the fold for Ion and the rest of Black Dragons. This is an operator that we've seen played more and more throughout this tournament, specifically being useful for pushing these smaller hallways where you're able to bank those green screens off of each other, or off the walls back to back, and create almost a zigzag pattern, which can allow for the attacking team to be able to push forward with quite a bit of confidence. The defenders will more than likely not want to challenge that, given the kind of random nature of how the gunfights will go. So we'll see that stay in play. Other than that, though, for the most part, things are going to remain relatively the same for BD in terms of what they selected initially.
I love Herd starting it off this way, trying to get aggressive early on. Set the tone, John. You want to start things fast and furious. Let Black Dragons know what you're about. They have to respect that. They don't want to be losing bodies early here. Force them to drone a little bit more often when it comes to this side of the map. A little tidbit here before we get too deep. Black Dragons, they've been really favoring those plants, as you heard Fresh talk about on the analyst desk. But for W7M, John, it's been a little different for them, hasn't it?
That certainly has been the case, as they've been playing much more into the usual sort of Brazilian play style, trying to play very much in the face of their opponents, taking the fight directly to them, not trying to play too heavily into the objective unless they absolutely need to rely on it. So this is very much going to be a clash of styles, interregional as well, to determine the best of the best inside of those. And even so, we'll have another one of these same matchups coming up right after this, I do believe, as well. We'll have another matchup that's all Latin American teams before we get to the semis.
Absolutely, and that's even more exemplified when it comes to W7M on defense. They don't have a single disable throughout the tournament just yet. So that means when they try and go for that plant, well, they're throwing bodies at them. That's what they care about. They're taking that fight and trying to win it through the traditional means of Siege, killing your opponent. So we'll see if they can get that done here. We saw JV using those electro claws to their fullest at range. It's the beauty of Kaid. You can sit over here inside of the main hallway for Throne and just try and play about, assist his teammates over on this side of the map who are still holding presence, especially upstairs. Love this position for KZ. Black Dragons not too far into the map. They're really just focused on the key areas that they really need to try and hold on to. But the big issue is that W7M have enough bodies around here to try and hotly contest this area, especially when it comes close to sight. Love this Warden pick that we have. KZ, he's finally going to get some pressure upstairs, though.
No success in flushing out those actual positions upstairs. That's the big problem here. The only really damage being done to Keys in this situation. So he'll be dropped down quite low. More than likely is going to have to back away towards the site. BD have made no progress in terms of actually getting themselves to the inside of it. Still going to have an electric fence blocking the way. Still take a little bit of chip damage. And of course, we've got the Toxic Babes blocking off access as well. So things are going to continue to slow down as Keys now strikes first for W7M. Since BD are forced to start peeking into the site. That'll be nice re-aggression coming in from the Oryx. That means the upstairs presence is still a problem. Keys actually down now, firing through the Dragon door to take down Nade, knock on a second member of the BD roster. Trying to move forward forward more and more here. But as you can see, W7M's defensive setup has not been pushed back to any extent as of yet. Patoxy may have to try and swing in through Dragon Door, make that unexpected play to subvert W7M's own expectations, but it's just not happening. Basetto finally strikes true, but that more than likely will end up being one of the only kills here. Perez able to find one for himself. Actually, it's another one as well off the sidearm, but these are just stat pat kills at this point. The round is done, and W7M take a very confident hold in Throne for the first round.
A very controlled Black Dragons, but I have to point out, I really think this is due to what we saw from W7M early in the round. We start out with that peek from Herds, and they keep the pressure upstairs. Black Dragon with a lot to deal with, but W7M, they're able to really use that to their advantage. I love what we saw from KZ upstairs. He gets pretty seriously damaged, but he's still willing to go for a lot of these gunfights, and he wins out the majority of them. 3 kills in that round alone at very low HP, John. It's like this guy's a thing that goes bump in the night.
So that is going to be obviously the most straightforward site the W7M will have in their arsenal to defend back down inside of Throne Room. Now things get a little bit trickier. Black Dragons will have more options to be able to access the site. They'll have more valid ways to try and push towards the extremities of it, and more ways as well to push back this more aggressive stance that W7M is going to want to put at the beginning of the round. W7M not playing too heavily into that though as of round 1, so we're going to see some changes for them as well now, with them more than likely wanting to push out and try to play against areas like Dragon and Cafe to stem the tide on BD's initial take.
Well, KZ gonna be on his hallmark operator here, Malusi. Well, game gonna be back online here, so hopefully everybody else at home is as well. I think we're okay to continue. Everyone a little confused. Don't worry, we are as well, but looks like things are right as rain. So we're gonna continue on with round 2. We've got some pretty serious adjustments when it comes to the offense here for Black Dragons. Nade going to be on the Lion now. This is going to be the best player by rating on Black Dragons coming into the playoffs, in a contender that we really need to see step up and hit a home run today.
The showings of an initial clear so far from BD. Gonna spend a lot of time on drones more than likely over this next 30 seconds to try and figure out what that initial setup looks like from W7M and where they can best potentially challenge it. Already seeing a big stack outside of Cafe, so the lineup will be leaning in towards there, but as you guys might expect, and we were talking about before, definitely gonna see some resistance here from the W7M roster. The Wamai currently being played by Volps directly on the inside of it. We'll have to give some respect to that in a second. You can see that's already been given away as he backs out towards the doorway, waiting for that initial push. He's not gonna be alone here though, as you'll see that second player also supporting him to the top of Yellow Stairs on the top middle portion of the map.
You can see how Black Dragons are setting up around this portion of the building. That's something quite common when it comes to Rainbow Six, but very important when it comes to a map like Theme Park. You really need these crossfires and to try and box out the defense. You're really looking for those ISO plays. If you can get somebody locked up, maybe you can try and get your entry in there and get a big pick. It hasn't come for Black Dragons just yet, but it's been a lot of info game for them thus far, and trying to abuse some of these angles that they can open up with the Selma charges. Be able to get some here for these windows that we just saw being played by Ace moments ago. That's going to be Ion out on the rappel. Nade's going to be down low still. Going to pop that EE1D, but nothing to come with it just yet. Black Dragons have been waiting down to the wire to really go for these executes. The early aggression just has not been there just yet.
Yeah, once again, that falls more so into what we were talking about during the pregame. Patoxy with some nice patience here, though. Gets the peek from Herds and absolutely slams him down. So beautifully done here. That'll open up Cafe for them to be able to push into it. But it goes back to, of course, what Fresh was saying on the desk, where this team is very much like the sort of vegan team inside of Latin America because they play such a slow game. They play this very, very execute-focused, methodical play style. And at the moment, it's working off the intel they got before. Ion with 2 kills to work his team to the inside of the site. Bringing it all down to JV and Julio now to clutch it out for W7M in the 2v4. JV immediately decked as well by Perez, leaving it all on Julio.
Well, he starts it off strong, but still has to get 3. He's gonna walk right in and slap Perez down. With the shotgun in hand now, the SAS shotty. It's always been so dominant. Tries to push forward. Is it a bad read? It is, but Ion, he's able to close it down. Luck on his side up against the spray pattern of the shotty, but it works out. And as you said, Black Dragons, their parents have to be proud, John. The patience from these guys really paying off.
The case of some beautiful stuff coming in there from the Black Dragons roster as they are able to work their way back into it. Mainly off of some great drone intel that they got in the middle of that round, chucking the drone in from the outside of the window there by break, and then be able to just roll that one entirely through. Unfortunately, W7M either never really realized that and decided to change up positions, or otherwise thought they could take on the challenge anyway. So BD had pretty much a full read as to the setup, and since it was a fairly static setup from W7M, took it down through the process of entry.
Absolutely. Took them a little while to get to it, but as you said, Black Dragons really likes to play with that time initially. They want to try and get that early info, see that site set up, and then slowly dissect things. Look for those ISO plays that are so very important, like what we saw go down inside of Cafe. So Black Dragons will be able to tie things up because of that, but how does W7M fire back? More than likely be a little bit of a dial back of those more aggro positions like what we saw out of Herds. That's how you get yourself punished, get yourself in a corner and try and cross a line of sight in just an ill-timed position, and more than likely going to lose your life because of it. That's what comes from that. So Black Dragons are going to send us for a shift again here. Nade, last time he was the one on the line. This time it'll be Paris. Ion also off of the ace. In fact, no hard breach coming this time around.
And going to be jumping onto the Ash. It's an interesting one to see for Black Dragons as well, just because the roles are a little bit more fluid on this team. From what I've noticed, there's no like dedicated player that goes for these types of operators back-to-back every single game. They tend to flip it around a little bit. Inside of the group stage, we were seeing Perez generally pick these up, but as we got more towards the tail end, we were seeing him switch the operators he's on now, where it's much more utility-focused. And again, because Nade has had generally the better entry/fragging performance, he seems to be taking on these more straightforward fragging roles, as you're now seeing, of course, with him going onto the Ash.
Definitely agree with that, as Nade has been a huge component of this Black Dragons offense. Ion with a beautiful nade there. Nice little Kobe right off of the side paneling of the door. But W7M, this is the one thing that we've always noticed about him, and Ion's ready for it. Volps, he tries to come back for the refrag, and they're looking for even more. Ion, this G36C in his hands. Practically a katana to cut down his opponents. So working out quite well for him thus far, but Black Dragons, they've already got the plant going on as well. This is looking so solid until Julio steps up and he takes him down. That's gonna be the case down in sight. Is it 2 versus 3, but Black Dragons have to try and fight for map control.
Was the big gamble, of course, by going for the billiards plant without full control of the areas around the site. You could see here W7M starting to collapse upon this now. Black Dragons felt they had enough areas surrounding it, but did not have full control. I believe in the bathroom area, and as such, W7M were allowed to work their way back in, drop the case as well. JV snakes off the kill from the bottom of the arcade stairs, taking down Perez and evening out the player count down to a 2v2 here now. Nade and Batoxi, all that's left for Black Dragons. They try to bring it back under their control. They still have that bathroom control for themselves, so are going to be able to work their way back into it, but it's the lab itself they never stole away. They're attempting to pinch it out in the mid-round, and W7M were able to hold their own. Nade now going for the second plant attempt. Will it be able to go down? Well, we are going to see the air jabs hold back the interruption of the plant at least, but Nade will still acquiesce to get himself off of it to defend his own life, and unfortunately will still fail to keep himself alive. Julio picks him up, leaves everything down to Batoxi inside of the 1v2. Plenty of time to duel this out as well. He can take his time truly inside of the duel, but won't do so. Tries to force the issue on the inside of billiards and gets shut down. Our defenders excel once again and now lead 2-1.
Well, for Black Dragons, they had the opportunity. It was a tantalizing chance to get into sight, get a plant down, John, but W7M, their aggression on defense, it never ceases. They always want the fight. They want the smoke when it comes to these defensive ends on any map, and they get it here up against Black Dragons. They take it all and the round. Very well done from them to continue the fight, even though they were trying to get it done from that downward position. Completely against the Star Wars rule there, my friend. Winning from the lower end. So we'll see if they can try and bounce back here for the Black Dragons' sake, as we're going to be headed back down to Throne for our defense.
So let's get ourselves back into it now. Throne Room up next for W7M, where they already gave us a very confident showing for their defense here. Back on round number 1, Black Dragons need to make some big improvements to have a hope of working their way into it. And they're going to focus very heavily on opening up additional avenues, such as the supply closet route going into the main wall behind Throne itself. This will be amplified, of course, by the pick from Nade. They're going back over onto a Thatcher to complement the Thermite that's already picked up by Basetto. Even then, we did have a Twitch soft block for a second for Ion as well, but it feels that they've decided that's not entirely necessary. They're going to move away from that. Having the Thatcher in play is probably enough of a negation to the utility. The Twitch won't be fully necessary as that kind of insurance policy.
not exactly the greatest when it comes up against what W7M want to do here, so definitely agree with that. I think Thatcher's going to be a better choice for him overall. Those Electro Claws, especially with how JV's been using them, he's just been tossing them. So you're going to need that Electro Claw to be tossed in the air while your Twitch drone is present inside of the throne room armory area where there's quite a few W7M bodies rolling around. So just probably not going to happen. So you're really playing it to try and get rid of some other things, have the extra drones and for that F2. So definitely agree with Black Dragon's choices here. They're going to get the Yana in here for Paris as well, so we'll see what he can do with this Hollow. He's also rocking the ARX. It's been back and forth this LAN with what people have been enjoying on her.
Slow rolling so far, as you might expect on the second go-around here for the throne attack for the Black Dragons. Took them until the very bitter end of the round to even start their attempt to push in through Dragon Door and some other parts of this map on the previous round, so expect a similar amount of caution this time. Like we said, though, big focus on trying to open up the walls a little bit earlier on and give them that better real estate to be able to push it over.
Oh, no.
He's, though, with the big play, walks right up, grabs one. Oh, no! Missed Basetto, though, inside of the corpse of his teammate. So he'll trade it back out. Perez also scores another kill elsewhere on the map.
KZ at this rate is going to be a Brazilian myth. People are going to be telling their children about this guy. It is truly incredible what he is able to pull off. Just a little bit of mismanagement from Black Dragons, and they're punished for it. But fortunately enough, they bounce back in a serious way. Just not seeing the second player inside of there, and KZ goes down. Hurts to follow. Black Dragons able to have the lead for now, but we saw what happened the previous round. W7M, they're no slouch. They don't slow down. They're set for war. Highly doubt that Black Dragons aren't at least have this for the time being. It's definitely not done just yet. You can see that in the way that they're carrying themselves, the cadence of their play. They're checking every corner for where these W7M members could be. JV, he's going to Nitro sell the verticality that we just saw created from Yana, but nothing to come with it. Going to land on deaf ears, but they do still have the one in the pocket of Volps, and with minimal time here, this could get them into trouble. Electroclaw out, but did he hear it for the hatch? He did not. No timing here, so he's going to have to try and hightail it out.
Connector hatch will be opened up. Basetto now with full rights to get vision onto the entryway for both of the sites, of course. And W7M actually rotating a few of those players out already as well, so that will leave them unfortunately unable to assist when it comes to the site defense. And now, as a few of them, at least one now, Volps tries to rotate back in. He'll be caught off by Basetto. W7M, all of a sudden, their aggression is coming back to haunt them here, as they no longer have the presence on the inside of the site. The drop down in the spray coming out as well, but nowhere near enough damage. Only one player dowels before the 1v1 is traded out. Julio now alone inside of a 1v3, knows he's got at least one contender by Dragon's Door, but can't find the exact location. Perez shuts it down, and Black Dragons have truly come alive here now, it seems.
Yes, indeed. Very well done from them. And again, it goes back to that patience. They're just doing a lot of things that are putting W7M off their timing. You can see the rotation coming back into connector hallway right there and really punishing one of the last members of W7M. But that's even past what we saw Black Dragons able to deal with early on in that round, dealing some considerable damage to the lineup and making it really difficult for W7M to try and work out. And obviously Black Dragons able to use the rest of that time bank to a really, really good result. So we'll see if they can try and keep this up on the offensive side of Theme Park. If they can get this third round here, I think that we really could see 3 maps between these two.
Intel denial needs to be the key here for W7M coming into this round, as unfortunately they failed to deny it outright when this was played back on round number 2, and then failed to adjust their setup to try and subvert the expectations of the Black Dragons, basically allowing them to go through with a pretty straightforward execute based off of their entries at the end of the day. We should see something fairly similar deploy out here. A few more reselections. As for the most part, I think it's just operators being shuffled around, or stylistic changes. They don't feel they need all the intel that the EE1D would have provided on the Lions. They're going to bring the Yana back in for Potoxi, for instance. Basetto adding in the Flores to try and take out some extra utility in the depths of the site if they feel there's going to be any pesty ones. Things like, of course, the Banshees from KZ and a few other elements here. And then they'll still get their soft breach in the form of Perez and other forms of straightforward utility there. Nade, bringing the Twitch drone in if they really need to sneak in an insertion. And of course, that's a very comfortable pick in terms of a weapon for Nade, too.
Scary sights here. Oh, and a misread. Heard the bullets out of the Twitch, and that masking of the sound. A little difficult to read if somebody's approaching the stairwell, or obviously the material they're walking on changes. So just tries to go for it. They still have a bunch of other things to try and utilize to slow down Black Dragon. So if the early kill would have came their way, definitely would have been a lot more beneficial there. So looks like,
oh, let's see. Hold on.
Yeah, we're gonna hold on here.
We got it. We're good.
Yeah, I think we're back in. So Get this Rotero drone warmed up here for Bisetto. Or does he want to try and find a home for it? It's immediately going to be eliminated. W7M have been on top of the utility management for the majority of this tournament. Definitely not going to see it slow down anytime soon, so very well done from them.
Volps patiently waiting for his opportunity to potentially frag out, but you can already see him being crossed a little bit here. The shots coming in from break room side to be able to fire out against him, and as well as your Terror drones finally piercing the veil a bit. The second one chucked out there is able to take out the first bit of utility on the inside of Cafe. I believe that would have been a Banshee that early on. That ends up going down. He does need to get another one a bit deeper into the building though to be able to take out the deployable shield. Other forms of utility that will also be here. Volp strikes true though, catches Ion in the early round here. We're going to see how the Rotero drone work its way through. However, oh yeah, it's just barely going to be able to sneak in the elimination of that deployable shield. The two ADSs around the corner, though, still staying alive for the time being.
Really surprised that Volps has those proximity sensors instead of the impacts for that situation, but obviously those can be pretty useful in certain situations, so unlikely have those set up for himself around drops or some stairwells or something like that. Oh, nice trade here from Black Dragons, capitalizing on the aggression from Volts and also getting Julio in the process somehow. That's the smoke down nade. He's going to take it one step further. He's got JV under wraps. It's a 3 versus 2.
Once again, W7M with their peaks kind of flying blind. That's a big comparison to Black Dragons, as you just saw there from the Twitch's POV. Nade more than ready for the challenge that came out against him on the initial peak, but now Hertz gets some revenge. Press as well, keeping Black Dragons in front of this chase, as Hertz is now the only player left alive for this team. He does have both the remaining members of Black Dragons lit. Nicely recovered there. Brought down incredibly low, but reacts just in time to still smite out the last member running from BD. Down to the 1v1 here. Bisetto versus Hertz. Hertz seems to have had some vision indeed. The originally higher HP will play out for Hertz as he gets the triple kill. The 1v2 to clutch this out now for W7M and keep them in front of the chase.
What a clutch from Herds, and a disable finally coming the way of W7M. We've got one. We have one for our Brazilian squad. And I mean, what an amazing set we already have going on in between these two. And the craziest thing is that even past this, we're still going to have a Brazil on Brazil matchup. So it's really going to be the Brazilian derby to see who goes to the grand finals. And the craziest thing is they just played Copa Elite a month ago. So W7M just did this, and now they have to do it all over again.
For anybody curious about how that match did end up going, it was a 2-1 in the favor of W7M when these two teams went up against each other. I think towards the very tail end of the Copa Elite 6 bracket just a few months back to qualify for this very same event. W7M, of course, looking to just rerun that, as Stokes mentioned, but Black Dragons here for revenge, and so far they've done a pretty good job of hanging on the attacking side here of Theme Park. Gonna see if they can lock in that third and final round for themselves to fully tie things up at 3-all, as they're gonna go for another throne room defense as W7M's last defense comes to bear.
Ion is really stepping it up for the stage here. He had a .88 when it came to group stage, already 5-4. Harris also getting quite a bit done here. Nade the one on the back burner as he's been kind of rolling around different operators. We've seen him on some Ash, back to Thatcher now to try and assist with getting these walls open. Also have the redundancy when it comes to the hard breach. They've got the Thermite as well as the Ace here. Always got to double those up just in case somebody dies, right? So Black Dragons, they have everything and a bag of chips to try and get this round sealed. See what they can do. It'll be a nice tied series here if they can get it. W7M, though, these defenses have been coming hot and heavy, really heavy-handed with the aggression, but that's something to come and expect out of these guys.
So KZ will be the front and forward player trying to contest against the initial Dragon take from BD if they're going to end up going for it. BD, though, taking a nice slow roll, it seems, here for the first few seconds of play. Not wanting to take much control of anything themselves. They're just opening up the default barricades here and kind of setting themselves up to properly drone things in. Then we'll start to see some counteraction veer towards control or other areas on the Dragon side to begin pushing back W7M a bit closer to the actual site. Bisetto has met some aggression, it seems. It's probably JV on the other side, if I'm guessing the silhouette correctly. So he's going to be forced back and away from that one. Black Dragons won't be too long for the positioning on the outside of the bathroom. They don't really need to play around that anyway, so they got to focus up, get back on the objective train here.
Measured approach from Black Dragons, as we would expect. They're going to be starting things out on the cache side of the building. Drones in, it'll mark out Julio around the Dragon area, and he's going to hightail it back into the site. Really needs to try and stay alive this time, especially with the amount of magnets that he had in his pocket right there. That is so many things that will be caught now that he has been able to stave off elimination. Nade working his way in via Gong. Again, slow rolling here, but to be expected. Trying to make sure they can capitalize on their info game. Ion also checking things out when it comes to the drop. Really hope that this drone game works out for them because Volps is awaiting his arrival. He's going to choose to work his way over towards Cafeteria. W7M, they've got a lot of map control across the entirety of this area. Herds is finally going to be the one to go down. You can see the disjointed bouts that we have going on across the entirety of this space. We have W7M upstairs trying to take it against Patoxy. It's going to be Volps. Also has one in tow. It's going to be Ion on the sledge as he tries to propel himself forward. They're going to give up the verticality upstairs, but they're going to keep KZ over on the top of Dragon.
Very inactive round, really, from both teams here so far. Black Dragon's been trying desperately to be able to find themselves positioning to be able to execute, but at the same time, trying to keep their setup together here. That impact nicely played, but I think it was already taken down by another player as well, so either way, beautifully done here. Negates out the utility. There's still potentially a second one in that player's pocket as well, but Volps just makes the direct play from Dragon Door. Nay gonna go back up on top to try to counter out the impact that was thrown before, but then I realized KZ already up against the side door to go into the closet. Perez will quickly exchange it, but it's the lack of intel there from BD that has ultimately ended the round, it seems. W7M shutting down the remnants here. Beautiful response kill from Perez, but it won't change the outcome of this round. W7M with that beautiful aggression by Dragon Stairs, locking it down and putting them back in front of the charge.
They got the kill on the smoke, but they didn't deal with what mattered most, and it was the positioning there from KZ. All that droning to really not get anything done on the side of the map that they wanted to actually take control of. They were able to get things done when it came to the arcade side, but that had nothing to do overall with where they were trying to spearhead into sight. And that's where W7M rear their ugly head, especially for KZ again. I love and have loved for so very long that positioning under the default cam right next to maintenance door, John. If you can get yourself right inside of that little crack right there, you can go right under the radar almost every single time. It is damn near perfect when it comes to a location. You have that statue there to block down the hallway, and it's pretty dang easy past that. If somebody approaches the wall, they're more than likely dead, and that's what we get.
All right, so the half has flipped now. W7M in charge of the attack. Black Dragons over to the defensive side. I mean, we're going to get another rerun here of the throne room defense. Obviously, all sites have been unlocked for play with Black Dragons taking over the mantle on the defensive side here. Going to be an interesting lineup, too. A little bit different in terms of the style that W7M wanted to go for. More so just trying to set up utility right before the execute and then follow through by shutting down players just by having decent guns to work with. Here, it's much more preset utility focus. As you can see, the Echo drones are going to come out for Basetto. That'll really be the only late round utility we see play out. Aside from that, Nade with the Bandit batteries on top of Ion as well, setting up the Capcan EDDs are going to prevent most of the entry power from W7M, if they prevent it at all, of course.
Well, at the half fear, you'd expect it from W7M, but I'm going to say it anyways. The most consistent team that we've seen at this entire LAN by rating across the board, and consistent across the board yet again. Look at those kills. So very even. 5 for 3 of them and 4 for the other 2, but when we cross the fence and we look at Black Dragons, we got to talk about Nade for a second, John. He hasn't been playing too well just yet, and in fact, he is the most frag-heavy player on this entire roster, and he's got the highest KPR at 0.89. He's currently 2-5. We need to see him switch it up on this half.
It goes back to what I was saying before, though, where like Perez was kind of taking over this position earlier on in the tournament, and as well looking back at things like CES and whatnot, was that more aggressive frag-based player here. But Basetto is going to take the mantle, not to start out this round here. Gets right up in the face of KZ, knocks him down, and knocks at the Twitch along with it here. Still going to see some breaches start to be made, though, to give the players on W7M access to the site. But either way, Perez seems to be making up for what we're not getting out of Nade right now, and that's being responded to as well in terms of the operators like Perez now being given kind of his own comfort picks to be allowed to play that out a bit more.
Absolutely. Black Dragons getting that big pick onto KZ. Seems like the Brazilians really the only players that know how to counter him out. One of the highest ratings I have ever seen coming out of a group stage, but currently 5 and 6. Herds with a big pick onto the actual site, and able to get things done. JV as well, going to EMP the wall and make it a little bit easier for them. Volps will finally get taken down as he was trying to overwatch at the top of Dragon. Have some rotations coming through, but nothing that Patoxy can really do. They're not going to try and open up the wall over there or anything. It was just the EMP to try and make sure there wasn't anything that was really going to bug them in that area. So it is the 3 versus 3, but practically the shoe on the other foot as Black Dragons have to retake the entirety of the site. W7M attempting to box them out. It's going to start here on Dragon Door. Ion attempting to work his way in. Fantastic read, but they both try and peek the same area. Fortunately enough, it gets down to a 1 versus 1. They have a chance, but Patoxy, he's got such little HP. It doesn't matter, though. The spray goes wide, but no time. And W7M will get another round, up 3 when it comes to this one, 5-2.
Black Dragons have a very light-handed defense there inside of Throne Room, pretty much the direct opposite of what we tended to get. It makes sense considering the operators that they had selected beforehand, like we talked about there, definitely wanting their utility to do most of the early holding for them, and you can see this as well with the Bandit battery spread all throughout the walls, but W7M just with no respect to that. Just like, oh, they saw that pretty much at the beginning of the round and immediately looked for very quick ways to be able to breach past that. Like I said, Thatcher's unlocked for play, for instance, so there we go. That's
have the skeleton
the Bandit batteries.
Yeah. I mean, not Buck, right? But like what a skeleton key actually is.
Then
right?
BD just like never really realized that and fell back, unfortunately. So they were boxed out of the site way too early in the round there.
Yeah, I don't like the pressure that we saw from Black Dragons there because, like you said, like if you try and lean into the utility game too heavily against W7M, they're just going to shoot you, and that's what they did in that last round. Pure, unadulterated aggression, and it works out for them. We need to see Black Dragons bounce back here, get some ideas of their own. You know, it's really just been Paris that's been stepping up in this game. He's been collecting so many kills. I really want to see this spread out. If we can have a couple of big rounds from some other players here, then I can really see Black Dragons coming back in this map.
Well, let's see if they're going to be able to do that at all as W7M reaching the precipice now. Just 2 more rounds to go, and already map 1 will be claimed for themselves. That'll move us deeper into the series. The folks at home predicting that this would be the way this matchup would go. Black Dragons need to step up here now, subvert those expectations, and show us what they're truly made of if they want to stay alive in this tournament. No lower bracket to play out here. This is it.
Yeah, this is a 1-stock tournament here, folks. No extra lives. Means Black Dragons have to take out W7M, which would be one of the biggest upsets I think we've had in quite some time when it's come to a group stage. I cannot imagine a world where W7M doesn't make it to, at a minimum, semi-finals when it comes to this tournament. In fact, as of right now, probably my favorite to win the entire thing past Liquid, but we'll have to see how things go. Julio gonna be on the line for this one. Got the stuns in the pocket, so does KZ. They have plenty of hard breach in the likes of Volps. He's probably going to continue working this western side here, or rather southern side of the building. Always gets a little wonky when you get upside down on that rappel, but either way, he's already got one Selma down on that break room wall, so beautiful angle that he'll be able to abuse over the fridge door.
W7M once again playing very heavily into the drone game here before they try and make their initial moves, not wanting to make the same mistakes we saw inside of the earlier clears out of some of BD's takes here. So needing to definitely take out some utility with regards to the cafe side clear. You're seeing a lot of this built up at the moment, but it's going to be Ion from Black Dragons that's able to fend off KZ yet again. 0 for 2, I believe, so far in this half from him, and this time a second player is going to fall from the side of W7M as well. JV being found out. That eliminates all of the excess Rotero drones. I'm curious as to how that play actually unfolded too. Possibly feeling that that player might have had the safety to push into cafe after throwing out the second one and dealing with the utility inside of there, only to be shut down by one like what was an aggressive push from Black Dragons by Arcade side. Oh, great follow through onto a second player as well here from Volps as he snipes out 2 players. Couldn't see either one of them really either. Julio nets a third, and all of a sudden W7M have the player advantage. Nade and Patoxy, well, Patoxy's dead, and it's all on Nade here now inside of the 1v3.
In W7M, it might as well stand for win 7 more, my friend, because my God, what is this? It was 3 versus 5. Volps gets it done by swinging in a window on break and killing 3 people. Truly disgusting stuff. What a sight to behold here. W7M. So we're already on match point.
Those are the kind of moves you need to make when you fall down. They were 3v5 at that point in the round, had lost both of their initial executes. Volps is like, let me try it one more time. And swings right in and just decks 3 people. It's a very risky play. Obviously wouldn't have looked great had it gone the other direction and then he got shut down, but in this circumstance, beautifully done to be able to turn the round on its head and back into the favor of W7M.
I think it's really what you said right there. Those are the moves that you have to make, right? They stumble, but they don't fall. That's the thing about W7M that I really enjoy. When it comes to being a champion-worthy roster in Rainbow Six Siege, if there's a moment of doubt throughout that round at all. Even when you're in the downward position, you've practically already lost. Every team that's ever been a championship roster in Siege has had one thing in common, and it's pure grit. And that's what this roster has. Volp's willing to just send it right into the building, take these gunfights with utter confidence. Something that, you know, if one of my friends was doing, even in ranked, I'd be like, why are you swinging this window? That is absolutely psychotic. But since his name is Volps, it works out for him. And it's working for him, then it's working for W7M.
Good news here for Black Dragons. They do have a little bit of a safe harbor to be able to fall back into now. Hopeful safe harbor here, as they'll be able to now go back towards the throne room, having completed their full rotation, and of course getting the coach's input on a pause. But it does need to be perfect, of course, from this point forward. 4 consecutive rounds. That means, of course, locking in their full site rotation on top of repeating more than likely the throne room play as well here. Going to be a tough ask, but we can already see it looks like they've kind of noted the issues from the previous round and trying to play things a bit more heavily into the site if the operator selections are any indication of that on the defensive side.
I mean, to be honest, what it really looks like is that they're going away from hardcore utility and they went, okay, what's some guns that are really fun to shoot people with? All right, so I'm just going to go with those. That's how we got Doc, that's how we have Malusi, Alibi, and Legion. Those are all really good utility-wise, but really we're here to shoot people. That's what we're here to do. So hopefully Black Dragons can get this done. Oh, that is possibly the worst thing that could happen to you for that spawn peak. Oh, I finally got somebody. It's Monty. Well.
I mean, if anyone was going to run straight head or straight forward into that angle, right, it'd probably be the Monty.
It'd probably be the guy that's literally called the Mountain, right?
Yeah. That or a bandit, which either way you're not hitting them more than likely. So quick opening for the rest of W7M to start clearing things out towards Dragon side. Definitely big emphasis on the push. Almost singularity from this side. We're not really seeing any aggression whatsoever from the Cafe end of things, meaning the Black Dragons will have a pretty straightforward process of just giving up this control and trying to bait W7 into them, of course. So let's see just how long this will take.
That is so chaotic. They didn't bring a sledge or any soft breach, so he goned open the hatch.
Work with the tools you got, you know?
Exactly. I mean, hey, if it fits, it ships.
Ion patiently waiting for his first chance to excel. Knows he's been spotted out by a drone. He can hear it out of the corner of his eye there. Jumping across, taunting him a little bit, it seems, as the drone reconfirms that he's still on the inside of office. Volps, of course, spotting out all this util now that he's reached the edge of Dragon Stairs and is relatively safe to begin pushing down towards it. Hurts will move in just to clear out Gong, of course, and back supply to ensure that there's no funny business going on for BD's hold over here. And indeed, they will confirm that Black Dragons once more, as we talked about previously, with a pretty standard hold in this round, as well as the extensions upstairs.
Oh.
Which is W7M going through the motions. Hold on, we do have that little bit of aggression coming in from Potoxi. Another challenger approaches it as well, but it will be traded out successfully to bring us down to a 4v4.
And here I was just about to say, I'd really like to see Black Dragon swing here, because if you let W7M get a little bit too far gone, then there's really no angle you're going to be able to work from. They already got the teller's wall open, yellow side, no rotations. You'd have to try and fight upstairs. That's all air jabbed off. So now they have to try and get it done from the site. 1 minute remaining, W7M, they've got the wall open, the smoke's out. Basetto, all he can do is try and play this off of audio. No way to try and see through the smokes, no way, no how. They do have some bulletproofs around, so maybe that could assist them if it's set up on the right angle.
Hurts and Volps ready to move in here now. It's already onto the inside, gonna try and bully Nate out of position, but gotta be careful here. Because I believe the Montaigne just ended up getting hit by a goo mine there as well, so he's gotta be a little careful. Someone certainly getting listed towards it as Herds still nets the first kill against Nade. Trying to slow down this Montaigne if at all possible. It's important to note he does not have the diffusers. You guys probably just noticed there as well. Going to be able to fix that very quickly though as he moves back in. They've reconfirmed it seems like a safe plant, but look at Ion. Ion making a big play forward. He catches the planter. Going to get traded though by Julio. Nice control exercise here by W7M. Not letting the nerves get to them and making sure that, yeah, there's going to be aggressive plays that'll work from BD, but we're going to trade them out and still maintain control of this overall situation. Basetto falls and Perez is all that's left. He'll strike true, working his way down the Dragon Stairs, but now he's going to make way past the pinch. This will be the toughest fight they'll have to take yet. He wins it though, brings it into the 1v1. Julio thought there was going to be a flank maneuver around Gong. Dead wrong in that respect. And now it goes to another post-plant 1v1, this time to settle the game. If W7M wins it here, Julio just waiting it out. Going to let Perez get over onto the case first. He'll rotate into this off the case, but no! The round still goes to W7M, and the map will go along with it.
Such a strong showcase of what has made W7M indomitable at this tournament. A perfect group stage and a perfect start to Friday. They haven't dropped a map here just yet in Jönköping. Truly incredible stuff. Black Dragons, I think they got a lot of good ideas as of right now, but not able to hold a candle to their Brazilian brothers.
Certainly not the case, as once again, W7M's confidence in their style of play, second to none at this tournament so far, have been looking consistent as ever and are looking to rocket their way forward into the semifinals with a victory like this. Beautifully played out there inside of our first map on Theme Park. And for Black Dragons, a lot of making up to do as they get ready for map number 2. We're gonna go to a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back soon to get ourselves ready for the second map of the series.
I'm Nicholas Mortensen, but you know me as Pingu. I'm a two-time Rainbow Six Siege World Champion and former top Rainbow Six Siege player in Pro League. Welcome to my Siege Ranked Bootcamp. We're talking 20 seconds left on the clock, you got the diffuser in hand, what do? Play the way that you're comfortable with, because you have confidence when you're in this position. That is when you're gonna be at your very best. Good luck.
Welcome back, friends. Yes, that was a pretty quick one. W7M rolling over their opponent to Black Dragons here in map number 1 on Theme Park. That was a pretty solid ride, I gotta say. Yeah, Fresh?
How did they do it?
They're so good. They're undefeated.
Strategically, there was about 4 or 5 rounds there that Black Dragons won strategically, and then W7M, they just find a way. And they've done it again and absolutely rolled through them, even though strategically they were on par.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I have 4 instances where literally they have the man advantage, they're close to the execute, they should be winning it, and then somehow W7M takes it. The late round pressure was handled so much better from W7M, and that's where the experience shows, I think.
There's some big strengths that the team has. And of course, you'll be seeing things on the highlight here from both of these teams. Tactically, Black Dragons did not do too bad of a job. Why do you believe that that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, they were going for DirectX almost all the time, right? So across the 9 rounds, you know, we spent 6 in attacks, so I'm mostly going to talk about attacks, but the way they've been going for DirectX, I think is super smart, because gaining control would be hardly challenged by KZ. Look, even when they're going for DirectX like this, KZ still managed to find picks, right? So taking a minimal map control and then focusing on site was the right play. The problem is when they actually reached site, either they were losing players being contested to the site, either they handled the execution poorly.
KZ was making plays, Julio was making plays. I think the only way Black Dragons didn't win the attack half, because obviously they lost it 4-2, the only way they didn't win it was when those W7M players were making plays. I remember KZ, he pops up down Dragon Stairs to kill a Breacher in one of the rounds. Julio in the 4v2 just stood basically in sight. And maybe it is a little bit too much commitment to trying to find the plant, particularly that Drug Lab attack where they're in a 4v2, they can just trade each other's lives out and win the round, and they're still trying to stick the diffuser down, and the diffuser carrier dies, and then it all goes a bit heads gone. And I think that's maybe just, it's W7M, and like I said, that experience that Julio's brought into this roster, they're making those plays between Julio and between KZ, and that's won them their defense half.
We talk about the two players, but they have 3 more on the team, W7M, that enable them to really perform well. Is that the case, or is it more of a two-man show?
No, actually, it's the full team. I mean, just look at Volps at some point, just goes like triple kill on ace, rappelling on a single window and punishing any movement. The really good thing about W7M is they were able to create pressure points around the site directly and then punish any movement. And that was amazing to see.
Yeah, I think once they got onto the attack, they were comfortable, right?
Yeah.
They obviously lost one post plant. Well, they didn't lose it. They were killed, they were retaken in post plant, but they got the diffuse down and ran the timer out. And I think they were comfortable with creating that pressure, capitalizing it, and they got the diffuse down twice.
Improvements from Black Dragons. What do you expect to see independent of map here? They have a bit of time just to recollect.
What I would like them to do is recollect, Milosh, it's a great word, is I think they get that, we see them taking these half clears and these kind of direct approaches. Once they've got the initial ground, just take a step back, because somebody from W7M is going to explode into that space to try and retake it, to try and make those plays. If they can punish KZ when he's doing it, if they can punish Julio when he did it, if they can punish Volps when he's done it, they really did have a successful game, and that's the only differentiating factor for me. So just recollect in the round.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in-game tactically they were good. The thing is, on this late round, they need to make sure they actually have the control that they think they have. They need to control their flanks, make sure they punish any movement that's coming their way. And in out of game, I think right now the most important is you've just lost your first map. It's fine. Focus on the rest. Don't think about what could have happened before. What would have happened if I killed that guy? What would have happened if I won that clutch? That's fine. It was before. Now focus on the future. Focus on those 2 maps and getting the next map.
That's where their lack of experience might hurt them now, though, right?
Yeah.
Because now they're at the major on the main stage, 1 map down. Hopefully they don't ponder it, because that's what they should do, right? They should just let it go, get onto the next map and focus on Villa, but
it's so much easier to say
than
actually.
It's easier to say it here, stood here, than up there. But
but being in their shoes before, like trying to reset mentally, trust me, that's a long process. It takes months, years to be able to do it every single time. For sure, some rounds are still going to be in the head.
It's so easy to just say, you know what, be more like FaZe in the game and kind of relax and pull back, but that just takes so much time to get into it, as you both are saying. But if we were to move on to our next map in this series, Villa is on the line for us. And we'll see the match summary, 7-2 here in map number 1 on Theme Park. Talked about Kaze, Julio, and Volps, and JV and Herds also performing well themselves. A bit disconcerting here, or disconcerting for Black Dragons. Some things to look at again, but Perez really showed up in the game. So we know tactically and in terms of player skill, Black Dragons have what it takes. You're going up against more experience. Can you do it on the next map? And that's where I want to focus on, because we're starting to worry, but is Villa the appropriate reaction here?
I mean, it's going to be a bit tough because obviously, like Jack said previously, I think the map favors W7M more than Black Dragons. It's not necessarily a really good map for Black Dragons. So I think it's much more about mentally, like can they reset and can they go into it like with a fresh mind and then really just step it up. Because when you see the statistics from Perez, like of course it's high kills, right? But I'm not sure most of these kills were really impactful. It's mostly late round. I think the most important right now is to settle in and completely reset and go in like this.
Yeah, I think for Villa, Black Dragons haven't had a good outing on Villa through this year. There's a reason in the ban phase that teams target weak maps, right? Black Dragons targeted what they thought was a weak map of W7M. W7M have targeted what they think is a weak map of Black Dragons. So I kind of echo what Alfama said, where it's just reset. It's just reset, and go into it. You know that the odds are not in your favor, but that does relieve that stress. That does relieve that pressure. Just get out there, perform. You know what your win condition, you've actually had a good performance, even though you've lost. You've actually had a good performance. So stick with that. Stick with what was working well and just fine-tune the things that weren't.
Are you sticking with Black Dragons? Do you see a map 3 in the horizon, Fresh?
No.
Or is it, it's traitor time? I can't believe it.
I believe there's still a way, because controlling flanks on Villa might be a bit easier than on Theme, right? It's obvious, right? It's stairs most of the time. Stairs, if you leave the right flank drones and you have someone dedicated on it, you should be able to punish aggression. That's what I want to see from them.
All right, gents, thank you very much. That is all I have to say in preparation for map number 2. It's Villa, it's beautiful Tuscany, and we'll be back with our casters after this short break.
Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the playoff phase of the 6th Jönköping Major. We are here live with our first matchup of the bracket, actually, here, getting through our Brazilian or Latin American derby here. We got 2 of them, in fact, between this one and the FaZe and Liquid match. It's going to be coming a little bit later on today. This one, though, starting out unfortunate for one of our 2 teams. W7M able to make pretty quick work of the first map here. Now, Stokes, what do you make of their opponent's chances, the Black Dragons, going into map number 2?
You know, I think there's a lot of good things said on the analyst desk. I really like what Alfama had to say about their strategy going into Theme Park, with them going direct to site and really just trying to play for minimal map control due to how KZ likes to play, and really overall how W7M really like to play. I think the biggest issue with that, though, is that they weren't able to counteract when they actually went for those plays. Even though they were trying to play the outskirts of the build in a lot of different instances, KZ was still able to get done with so much. And, you know, even past him, him, you're talking about players like Julio as well that were still able to capitalize on a lot of different situations, and Volps. You know, and the big thing is that Black Dragons have to account for this. And what this really comes down to is that they're stretched pretty thin in a lot of these different instances, especially for a map like Theme Park, right? Well, you're expecting people to be all across the map and trying to deal with a bunch of different things all at once, especially from the offensive perspective, right? But that's where things really start to disconnect. You don't have the amount of bodies that W7M are providing in a lot of these instances to try and take the fight to them. They are constantly doubling down on their aggression and trying to win through that aggressive means, and it's working extremely well for them. Black Dragons have to find the answer to it here on Villa.
We'll have to see here, because for me at least, this plays very similarly to how we see Theme Park played, especially from an early round perspective. So there is a lot that Black Dragons need to make up for, and the map is not going to be doing them any favors to move over towards it. Let's see, though, if they'll be able to get one over on W7M here on Villas. If not, we'll be saying goodbye to the Black Dragons, and W7M will be saying hello to a semifinal against either FaZe or Liquid. Thatcher is going to be our first operator to get banned out. Makes perfect sense from the Black Dragons perspective. W7M were using that quite a bit to be able to get throne room access in the previous maps. They don't want to mess around with that this time. Flores as well being removed. Flores incredibly useful both here and of course back on Theme Park, as we were seeing it to be used for that very safe elimination of interior building utility. Very much the same exact thing here on Villa. So once more, that'll be eliminated. This time by W7M though. Black Dragons just going to take out the usual suspect in Azami. We've been seeing her played out quite a bit. She's too independent, too universally useful on her own because she can literally throw down her own cover. So she's been banned out, I believe, the most out of all defenders so far this tournament.
She's the most banned op, period.
Overall, yeah.
Period, my friend. And it's by quite a large margin as well. The offensive one's still Nook. She's going to be available, though, as the offense, they really focused in on utility mitigation. They want to make sure the utility game is a little bit more difficult this time around for the offense to try and process. But for the defense, it's going to be the most plain Jane thing that we see commonly. Valkyrie banned out and, Azami, which, to be expected. I think that her kunai are really, really good, those Kiba barriers, as it's just free-form utility. You can throw it on literally anything and be creative with it to a tremendous degree, and you can get away with a lot. I mean, we've seen people use them for barricades, walls, shields, I mean, literally anything. I mean, we've even seen them used on ceilings to try and take up verticality. Truly impressive what that operator is capable of. That's why she's going to be off the board. But now let's jump into W7M's defensive setup and see what they want to go for. It's going to be stretched across this top floor, but as to be expected. Looking through it here, there it is. I wanted to see if KZ was on his hallmark operator, and he will be. It's going to be the Malusi. I was watching back their game versus Fury last night, and he really likes this bathroom position over here. Loves to play around this area. Also got a pretty cheeky kill inside of that game, actually, through the drone hole inside a bathroom. That was the first time that I'd ever seen that in my life. And in fact, I looked over at John right when it happened, and I was like, if that ever happened to me, I would just turn the game off. I would just quit right there and be like, yeah, that's enough siege for me today.
All right, well, let's see here now. As once again, Black Dragons going to be going for their initial bouts of control. More than likely seeing this shift pretty heavily into the areas surrounding the study. And indeed, that will be the case once they're able to flush their drones out there and make sure that we're not going to see any shenanigans from the W7M side of things in terms of trying to get hyper-aggressive against this clear. More than likely, we'll need to put a bit of work in over by Mainster as well before they can really justify the outright swing into a few of these parts of the map. And this all depends, of course, on how they went for that other study wall setup, too. They did leave half of it vulnerable, which means, once again, BD has to really be careful before they full commit to the inside of this one. Micro EMP is going to be required here by the Black Dragons, as you see one of those being used right there to deal with a little bit of utility that was hiding up on the wall. First of the micro incendiaries goes out, too, to try and block off access to that main stairs position. Volps is here playing it. You'll note there's not actually a whole lot of utility in that position, at least not necessarily at the top of the stairs for him to play into. He'll have his own personal magnets, of course, but usually get a deployable shield or something along those lines, and not going to be seeing that here from Volps. Nicely done again. The micro EMPs allows them to re-smoke this one out, and immediately W7M are just carving their way through the attack as Black Dragons seemingly had the utility to counter out all these angles, but no, unfortunately not. Even outright aggression from the study window comes out from Herds now to take down Ion and leave it all on Press.
Well, Press is going to be locked outside. Might as well use this as a pseudo timeout. I just got to be honest with you, John. I don't like that strategy at all. We have everybody built up around the study area, and Bassetto is off on his own island, flying into, bust window there. It's just not a great strategy. You're basically just jumping in a Lamborghini and immediately driving into your opponents. There's nobody else there to really save you. All of W7M is literally, collected around that area. Everyone is worried about benches, red stairs, all of this space. The Gara Hook so very loud, and or rather Black Dragons didn't play for a single bit of map control over there. They expected W7M to practically be blind to the situation.
Yeah, just way too one-dimensional for a team that we expect to be a little bit more complex than that as well, as we've talked about here. This is a team that doesn't like to play those direct in-your-face strategies that we like to get out of a lot of the other Latin American teams, so we should have expected a bit more there. A potential bid for lobby control that would then transition into main stairs to flush that player instead of having to use all that utility. I mean, again, they brought that utility seemingly for the purpose fit of blocking it out there, but they had no other angle to attack the site with what was going to be the transition plan to get out of study and into aviation is the big issue past that point for BD there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the other thing was I was sitting here thinking as soon as they picked that up, I was like, there's really no hatch play unless they want to go 90. And then I saw him position for the bust window, and it just feels bad. That's the thing. It just feels bad because a lot of the defense for AVG is centralized around that space. You usually have somebody playing over near benches or red, and it's usually just a straight death sentence if you fly through that window, and that's what happens to Black Dragons. I really hope that that isn't something that's going to affect them mentally as like a starter for this, because really I think you should just wash your hands with round one and just reset from here. It's fine. Try and build something up with round two. W7M's going to throw it to the sky. We're headed north as it's going to be trophy and statuary.
Confident showing from W7M off of the first round. Really, basically, the team suffering almost no damage of consequence throughout the course of the round as well. Just one single player, I think, got dropped down to about 50 HP, taking a duel by Death's Door at some point at the beginning of that engagement. Otherwise, though, no one actually going down until it was a 1vx, and the round was essentially over at that point anyway. A bit of a slow roll here once more from the Black Dragons. They'll be needing to spend quite a bit of time droning things out, figuring out how exactly W7M have deployed themselves on this round.
And just so that all of you are aware, that is just a spectator thing that is going on. It's not going on to the players in the game. So anytime you see that happening, it is just for our viewing pleasure, not theirs. So don't worry about it, okay? 2:19 left on the clock here. Black Dragons are going to be building up around the entirety of the map. And I mean, yes, the entirety of it. This is something that we were a little worried about inside of the last map and what we saw to them. W7M really enjoyed doubling down on their aggression. Even if KZ loses his gunfight, even though he's not going to, they would continue to toss bodies at Black Dragons until something stuck. And, well, they're going to be able to get the refrag, but perfect example there. KZ, he does not get off that accelerator.
Yep. Even though KZ goes down, still manages to chunk off about 2/3 of the health from Basetto in the first place, so he's still going to be incredibly vulnerable. Remember, of course, we're out of the Finca meta now, so you're not going to have those aggressive players be able to rebuffer themselves as commonly as they were used to just a few months prior here. Nade able to find a new target for W7M to focus on. Well, of course, want to deal with a deployable shield. It's a tough angle without that being eliminated, so it's a little bit easier for the repeak. That assumes, of course, the member of W7M also wants to play this out. Good spot on the drone here. Is going to see the lurk working its way forward. He knows exactly where this player's positioned, but the Nitro doesn't try to go for the shot, tries to go for the run instead. That'll be a fatal mistake for Basetto, and JV will claim the second kill for W7M.
A simple layup for the mute. Nitro sell out. I don't even need to see to set that thing off. I'll claim a kill with it. Minute remaining now for Black Dragons, but haven't been able to circumnavigate W7M at all. It's going to be Patoxy up against the castle. Shots going wide. The F2. It punishes him. Oh my, W7M. They're firing on all cylinders. Black Dragons have to try and find themselves. Nothing going here inside of these first two rounds.
W7M so in sync, they're drinking water at the same time there.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
So we'll have to see here if W7M will be able to remain as dominant. So far, it has been 2 missed attacks from BD, just not able to find any safe harbor to plant themselves into. And when they finally do feel that they have the necessary to control to be able to make the push forward, they are immediately just getting slapped both of these rounds so far by the W7M defense. Just a quick tech pause here, folks. Give us a moment, and we will hopefully be able to resume the game in a second. You can see the admins talking to someone from Black Dragons there at the end of the line, so should be able to fix this pretty quickly. Oh, we're going to watch this again. Unfortunate for Basetto. Could have potentially saved his life if he got a really quick flick and shot off there, but in the panicked moment, thought he could outrun it, and unfortunately that turned out to be his fatal mistake.
That and the Twitch F2 spray,
yeah,
rough.
Well, the other problem too is even if he stood there and shot it, he probably still would have been in the open, and there's a good chance the Doc could have actually ended up just shooting him as a response to that. So we actually probably made the right choice in hindsight to run from it, as he probably would have died anyway, even if he shot the Nitro. But yeah, just not enough distance between himself and the Nitro at the end of the day.
Well, the big thing is, as well, is when you bounce a stun like that, and it's that close in proximity, even if you don't get stunned, what happens is your audio goes out. You get that high-pitched ring and that beep, right? So he didn't hear the Nitro Cell at all. Not the tape rip, not it flying through the air and beeping, none of it. He got nothing until it was literally like on the tip of his gun. And he's like, oh, that's an explosive device. That'd be really bad if that, oh wait, I'm dead. So yeah, it's just really unfortunate for Black Dragons there. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. I hate to harp on the same thing, but they keep getting punished by the same thing. They are doing solo things to try and get at W7M, but constantly W7M are either able to thwart it or they die and immediately have somebody else show up to the party and try and take the fight instead.
So this has been the core issue all throughout this series, and once again starting to show the problem as well, as we've not seen Black Dragons play into the majority of the maps inside of this pool for this series so far at this event, and even going back to CES, we had not really seen this team bust these out all that much. So Black Dragons taking a big risk just in terms of the veto. There's a very good chance that we're going to see the argument made that the players on Black Dragons realistically kind of lost this as soon as we went into the map veto phase, and at the moment with the way these games are going, I kind of tend to agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, now here's the thing though, we have to do a little bit of praising for W7M, don't we? Because this is the first team in Siege history to have a perfect group stage, and they also have not lost a single map since September 25th, my friend. That's a long time ago. That's a very long time ago.
I want to double check that one, I feel like, because, well, match, I would believe, right? Because
Yes, match.
because they dropped a map against these guys back in the CES stage, of course, when they played the best of 3 there. So they did drop at least a map there, but yeah, in terms of match victories, yeah.
Yeah, match victories-wise, September 25th of this year, which is...
That's impressive.
Yeah, very, very crazy. And remember...
That's most of BR6.
Yeah.
Like probably
all of Copa.
Good half of the last stage of BR6, all of Copa, and of course the entire group stage here as well.
Yeah, which this is the creme de la creme of competition, where they should drop a map every once in a while. Not only that, they're also playing in best of ones, which for Siege is a little, coin flippy. You really want to try and get to those best of 3s to try and prove who the better team is. Those best of ones can be pretty volatile, and yet they still got through it scot-free. You just don't see that.
No, you do not. So once again, folks, we are just working on fixing this tech problem. Looks like it's taking a little bit longer, so apologies for that delay. We should have this resumed as soon as it is possible, folks. So once again, just working on ironing out whatever the issues. We don't have any updates in terms of what has been causing the problem, unfortunately, so we can't provide any more information at this time, but we will give it to you if we do get it. As we're working on getting the Black Dragons players, making sure that they have a full setup and making sure that they're not suffering from any problems, of course, so that we can resume this game with full confidence for both teams. But if you are just joining us, it is a very, unfortunately, kind of one-sided match right now in the favor of W7M. They continue to shut down the Black Dragons as they make their execute attempts so far on Villa, and the same thing was happening in very similar fashion back on our first map of Theme Park, where they were able to already win that one in their favor. So Black Dragons already up against the wall here, facing potential elimination as they were down 0-1 in this series in the quarterfinal. It's a bracket where we do not have a lower bracket either, so no second chance here for BD to bring it back later on in the tournament.
Nope, this is it right here. They've only been able to get 2 rounds through the 2 maps thus far. W7M already able to match that here on Villa. When it comes to Villa, W7M been running amok of a lot of things. Give Black Dragons a benefit of the doubt for the first round, as the strategy was just a little ill-advised. But for the second one, it seems like they're falling back into very similar straits. I'd really like to see Black Dragons centralize themselves and try and work the map as a collective unit. I think it'd really assist them up against W7M and their play style. But, I mean, it's been really difficult for any team to try and shut down W7M. So, really, what is that worth? You're asking them to try and take down a Titan at the current moment. But, I mean, hey, they still have an opportunity here, and that's the way that you have to play. You have to play in that positive headspace. As soon as you start thinking negative, I mean, you've already lost half the battle.
It's created a very interesting situation for them too, as the teams that would be, in my opinion, the most fitting to take them down are standing directly in their way in the bracket. I know most folks weren't a huge fan of the way the bracket panned out, giving it like all these.
It's Parker and Pengu's fault. So.
Yeah, true. They had to pull it out, so I guess all the blame goes to them. But yeah, I mean, it realistically creates like a gauntlet here against all the other Latin American teams that W7M have to work through first. Those are going to be the teams that have the most experience playing against them. theoretically know their weaknesses the best as well and would realistically be able to take them down the most confidently. So they're going to have to get through all of that first, and then they face off against the best from the other side of the bracket as well. And all those other teams are like, ooh, yeah, we got to get ready to play W7M at the end of all this. So W7M now looking to carve their way through the rest of the Latin American competition that still remains in this tournament, of course, which I think is still all of them. So that is going to be every single one of them that has managed to make it through. Congrats to the Latin American region, by the way, still very dominant here inside of Rainbow Six. All 4 of the teams that were able to make it here and qualify for the LAN have made it out of the group stage and into the quarterfinals at a minimum.
Always been one of our favorite regions to watch, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the more fun ones, right? Like,
yeah.
This is a very different style, very much on their own in terms of the meta sometimes as well. We started to see, I think, Align a little bit more over the past year or two, but they still very much have their own flair to things, which is always fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think Lion really works well with their play style. You know, it's quite aggressive at times, but it's also measured, right? And Lion is that perfect operator for that. If you're able to, you know, have him and be synergistic with his utility, unlike way back in the day when you basically just hit a button and it worked, you know, it's a fantastic operator. You can obliterate defenses with Lion. I mean, nobody can move, and they're practically instantaneously dead if you're on the same page. So always a really solid choice. But I mean, across the board, that has always just been something that I've really enjoyed about the Brazilian region, and the fact that they have constantly been able to innovate about this game.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we are taking a little bit longer to resolve this problem, so stick with us for just a few minutes here. We're going to watch some cool content, one of the Hot 6 videos here while we wait for this game to resume. Stick with us.
It's very hot. It's muito fácil, pô. I'm win. Yeah, let's go, let's go. LMG Fuse.
I think the Zofia one.
Okay, let's go.
Isso vai. Dá-lhe mesmo, dá. Botei. I'm gonna try to the... Which is this? The
Let's
recruit.
go.
Depois você fecha e bota ele. Boa?
It's good. Not very hot.
It's good, like a jelly. It's good. That one. Approve it. The first one's approve it. Not done yet.
Napier Furry. I'm win.
It's still not that much. Let's try.
Nossa, mano, eu vou ficar com essa aqui, certeza.
The first one. It's good. I like jalapeno, so it's jalapeno, you know? It's good.
And we are back once again, ladies and gentlemen. Should be resuming the match at any moment. We do have all 10 players back in the lobby. Just had to rehost things real quick. So we thank you for your patience on this delay. And once again, hopefully we'll be able to reward that in just a moment. As I believe we are going live once again with the matchup here. Currently, W7M over the Black Dragons here as they lead them 2-0, trying to take control of a second map of the series.
Been some fairly easy rounds for W7M to start us off here on Villa, but hopefully after the break, Black Dragons have some better ideas about how to counteract what W7M have been able to accomplish. It's round 3, obviously, after those 2 rounds went the way of W7M. It's going to be a dining room kitchen defense here, and one that's fairly straightforward. We're not going to have a pulse out or anything of the sort. I have some laser gates as well from Herd, so probably put those on the high traffic areas, and he's going to start it off here with Laundry. We also have the mute in, unlike what we had inside of the first game, and those jammers going to be going onto the walls. That's going to be KZ actually manning that. So I'll have the SMG-11 to his name. Let's see if he can be as lethal as he has been with these other weapons.
back to the first floor here, so it is going to ask just a little bit more out of W7M's defense to successfully pick up this round. Black Dragons, of course, bringing out plenty of utility to be able to clear that also, as you can see here, the Nomad being brought out for Potoxi just so they don't have to watch their complete backside as often as, well, at least they would not like to do. And then aside from that, the usual spread of utility to suss out the roam game from W7M that has been quite problematic, like a lot of things that W7M is bringing out here against BD.
Well, speaking of bringing things out, Black Dragons we brought out onto the field as W7M finally finished their setup, a pretty extensive one. But we'll finally find a home for that deployable shield. Just had to make some rotations and some other things, and KZ feeling himself quite early on here.
Device is set!
KZ working himself out there, trying to make a play early on, but is caught dead to rights with it by a member of the Black Dragons. Just a little bit too forward on the aggression there from W7M, specifically for KZ. So that will be the first time. I think that Black Dragons are actually going to be able to get that opening kill dead to rights too. It's all been going W7M's way as of the first 2 rounds here. So this is a great opportunity for BD to capitalize on this now and chain it into the site, hopefully giving them their opening round.
Black Dragons taking their time here, especially after they got that pick onto KZ. Ended up running outside, really trusting himself on that bathroom swing.
It's probably like bad intel on that as well with the jump out there. Maybe thought it was all clear and had something to lead into it, or maybe
he heard him finish his rappel. There's a clang. Yeah, there's a big metal clang whenever you finish rappelling in this game. So it's a good sound cue to try and go for hops and stuff like that. So that's definitely what KZ went for there. It's just that hey, this time around, it looks like Potoxi was good for it, you know. So able to get that kill, and thus far, Black Dragons steering this ship well. Got honestly fantastic positioning around the map. Love the Oza shield there inside of Laundry. We're going to continue to push it forward here, looking for a home for this planter. Smokes in now, grenade out, and Ion, he's actually going to be forced forward. This shotgun, yeah, that's usually the result that we see in a position like that. Ion will get taken down. Nade trying to recoup here, but Volps, he's playing this well. M590 out. Nade will take him down. They found a home now. Might be able to get this plant secured. Basetto, he'll start it up halfway through. Looking through the verticality, JV, he's found one, but he can't get the kill. The entire magazine cannot finish this man off. It'll be Herds instead, as he'll drop into Laundry.
Herds with a pick, does get the drop going, now on equal levels here, as he's going to be joined by his teammate coming down Astro stairs as well, but no intel as to the final 2 players from Black Dragons here. Herds, regardless, though, has reached the case position, going to be able to jump onto it. Fury to his left side for the swing, but no, Nade beats him to the punch. JV with the trade, but now he's going to have to figure out the final kill as well. Doesn't have the intel, now he does. He's figured out where that last player has gone towards with the run out happening here. Nade ready to move back in. Will he be able to get this clutch? It's a stick on him. He's got a few extra seconds. He won't be able to take this duel, but he tries to stick it instead. Won't happen, and finally, Black Dragons pick up a round here on the second map.
That is the difficulty of sticking in Siege. We are indeed one of the only games that has a loud buzzer when it comes to defusing, and usually gives you a pretty good telltale sign of the situation in there. So Black Dragons will be able to capitalize on that and get their very first round. KZ, really the man of the hour here and the man of that round that started things off for Black Dragons. Hops out the bathroom, gets over a kill. Black Dragons not too worried about any aggression coming after that. They mostly play the balconies and focus on the really, really close extensions so they can try and work their way into like laundry room and things along those lines. And past that point, I mean, working quite well. They have the entirety of the site to play around, and especially when it came to Memorial, using that space really into their advantage to make sure that plant went down and stayed down.
So W7M looking to now re-solidify things after they were unable to hold on to that site, which demands just a little bit more of them downstairs on the inside of the kitchen. Back to the old basics here. We're back when we play this on round number 1. Black Dragons kind of losing this because of their own strategy going into it. A very, very one-dimensional push coming in mainly from Study, and I believe 2 players also trying to push from Death's Door on the north side of the building as well. Just did not really work out for them, so we're going to have to see if they try to change that up at all now for the second go of it. It already looks like there is going to be some pretty big changes this one just in the operator selection department. This is a pretty big departure from what we had previously. So they're going to be trying to set themselves up, I think, a lot better defensively for this push forward.
Well, gonna get the Twitch drone in here. Do have a Banshee to worry about and quite a bit of utility that Ion's gonna be able to soak up with this Twitch drone. I have a couple shots still left in that. I do believe that'll be the last one there for him. But again, so much utility away from W7M. A lot of value out of that one, and a lot of value out of that shot. The first bullet out of the SMG rips Ion's head off. No longer have to worry about the twitch in her F2. Utility, well, yeah, still in the favor of Black Dragons, but W7M, they've got the man advantage. That's really what matters at the end of the day, especially with how quickly these rounds have been for them.
The timing on that shot as well was so nice here for Herds. The second he picks it up and dashes away, that was literally when Perez was beginning to peek into the window that could have very well taken that player down. Nicely played. Look, Herds even wants to play around with it a little bit more too. He's gone back to the window. Ultimately, though, does have to fade away from this one, especially with the timer going down below the first minute marker here. He's going to have to start rotating to rejoin his teammates on the actual site, and I bet you KZ will be doing the same thing here relatively soon. Has some utility support, so we can probably play this out for a little bit longer, but we're already halfway through the round now. The goal, for the most part, has been accomplished, and indeed, KZ has been picked here, so any more aggressive leanouts will need to start working their way back into the sites. They don't throw away this advantage they got earlier. Herds, though, proving me wrong, as he once again gives us a beautiful headshot to knock out Nade.
That's the story of W7M. It looks like it's probably not going to go their way, and then they hit a big frag every single time. Fantastic stuff from them throughout this entire tournament. You can see it's forced Black Dragons to be timid. They continue on this same warpath. They're more than likely going to continue to lose these lives. When it comes to the info game, they've got a solid set, but obviously they don't have nade any longer. So some of these laser gates are going to be pretty difficult to try and deal with. Probably be Paris to try and do that, as he does have that singular flash. But if they try and mistime this, my God.
All Herds right now.
Yeah, Herds again. It's a quad for him. He's going for the ace.
Let him do it.
Repel for the balcony. They know he's there. Take it, Herds. He's going to go down, but the entirety of W7M awaits around the corner. Patoxy, this AK-12, it's an amazing weapon, but I don't know if it'll make you good for 3. He's got the first one. Plenty of time to be able to try and clutch this out, but very minimal HP in order to do so. His Selma charges have worked, but hasn't worked for the rest of the gang, and he's quickly going to go to the wayside. Volps with that big pickup, and W7M back onto straight roads.
W7M with a beautiful showing from really just one of their players. They're shutting it all down. Herds with the quad kill. Never a really great sign either. I would not be surprised if we get the tac pause coming out from Black Dragons on this round, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case here. However, back to my main point, the fact that Herds is allowed to literally roll all across this map from about 3 different positions and pick up 4 separate 1v1 kills just speaks to how detached Black Dragons seem to be from the current situation. Just giving him 1v1 after 1v1, and I'll correct myself, it does actually look like we got that timeout after all from the Black Dragons.
Yeah, Black Dragons really feeling as though they need to discuss this, and I wholeheartedly agree. The big thing is about tactical timeouts, though, is that your opponent also gets to use those to talk to their coach. So there might be some change-ups coming for both of these teams. W7M might be changing up a couple of different things inside of their strategy, operator line-wise up. I don't think that they're going to calm down on the aggression at all, because that's really where they're finding a lot of traction in this game. For Black Dragons, it's really been these picks that they've been leaning into. A lot of these angles that they're kind of, really unbeknownst to their offense so far have been severely punishing. They're spending a lot of time early trying to get all of this info game going, but it doesn't seem like the info game is exactly active at the moments where they need it most, and W7M are able to slip through those cracks.
So W7M looking to solidify already a lead at halftime, irregardless
Oh,
of the
I love this change.
round.
I'm so sorry about that. I love this change, though. They had the Dokkaebi, switching back over to the Lion. I'd like to see the Doke, honestly, be worked in. I think that that is a perfect operator to use up against a team like W7M.
See if she ends up getting swapped back towards it. Nade did go away from it. They had it repicked for Ion for a split second there, but it seems like there's a little bit of indecision in terms of the exact comp they want to use here. Believe it is locked in now, however, we'll keep our eyes on it for the next few seconds to see if there's going to be any remaining change-ups, but no, will not be the case, so no Dokkaebi coming into the fold this time around. Instead, they choose to work the Twitch into it instead there for Ion.
They got 2 grenades on Paris. They also have the Twitch drones to try and get rid of this Electro Claw, but past that, there's no way to open this thing and allow Habana to do what she does best, try and get these walls open. I mean, one of the best extended hard breach operators, her and Ace, the only 2 ranged versions of hard breach in Siege. So able to get it from the windows outside. And she's got a lot more utility than Ace does as well, so you can be pretty simple with the way that you want to lay down those X-Kairos and try and thwart the plans of the defense. Herds is going to start off on the main stairs here. He's going to be visited by Patoxy, or at least the bullets of Patoxy, as it'll open up the double door down low. Black Dragons are going to be working on multiple portions of the map at the same time, but mostly centralized around the master area. W7M aren't going to have that roam game to worry about. It's going to be a couple of bodies over here as well. Ion's Twitch drone is going to get taken out, but do they want to flirt with this? Is this going to be a key component to them trying to get onto the site?
Toxie and the rest of the Black Dragons still looking for options to be able to move forward here and clear out some of the initial holds from W7M. And once again, in terms of timing, things are not really going according to plan here right now. They do want to try and move things forward a bit more securely. But the good news is actually, I'll correct myself a bit more. I thought we'd gone downstairs. It looks like we are on the upstairs statuary hold. So they're doing all right at the end of the day here, as long as they don't get tripped up with their hold on the inside of bathroom as well as master. Seto just holding the flank for the time being, making sure the W7M don't get any ideas over by the main doorway. And as well, after a few seconds of delay, we don't have any micro EMP, so dealing with the other side of that wall, the electricity on it, might be a little bit of a problem for this squad. They do have nades, so we'll have to see if they can get one in the correct spot to be able to knock out the claws that are currently stopping them from opening that up.
And it didn't happen, so they're not going to be able to open that at all. And like we were talking about at the very beginning of this round, it's going to be a pretty big issue. This triple wall means so much to trying to get into the statuary area. And now you have to try and do it through traditional means. You have to try and go through these funnels that are concrete from Master as well as the bathroom. W7M, they've stood tall thus far in the frag department. They're looking to do so again here in round 5, but Black Dragons, the one to start it off. Herds, the one to equalize it. Black Dragons, it's getting quite hotly contested here. Ion will actually be the one to lead off yet again here. Back and forth we go, but nobody really with a decisive pick just yet. Basetto trying to deal with the stairwell. Ion, he's also found some space over here on benches, and this really could be the big change up. Julio, he's taken a lot of damage. Patoxy's gonna eat a little bit of the bloom there, and oh, Julio, he's gonna get boxed out fully. The crunch comes in from Black Dragons, and it looks like they might finally have one. He won't be able to get the transfer there. Won't be able to get the first one, but Black Dragons with a round of their own.
W7M getting a little bit too far ahead of themselves, letting their aggression take the best of them, it seems, in that situation, giving over the early duels, and seemingly not ready for the fights as well when Black Dragons responded to that aggression in kind with their own push, starting things out inside of Master Bathroom, and then it really just snowballed from that point forward as they tried to double down, if not triple down on it, to bring things back under their control.
Our key factors here for Black Dragons are the Twitch and the Buck that we saw over near main stairs. We got a part of their story, right? A piece of the puzzle. They were over there trying to see exactly what was going on. What's the roam game looking like? What exactly can we do? And then we fly away from them. Black Dragons are mostly centralized around Master. They're trying to get their execute set up. And what happens is W7M, once things start to work into Master, they rotate back to site, giving up that space to the flank players from Black Dragons. And that's where they step up to the plate. We see that big rotation in from Ion for bench, and that's where everything is just run amok of for W7M. Now they don't have enough bodies to try and manage all the angles. They weren't holding the space over towards the main hallway area, and that's how Black Dragons were able to capitalize. They finally get that crunch they've been sorely looking for the majority of this game. They just keep losing those annex players when it comes down to it.
So W7M once again at the precipice now, potentially about to lose their edge at the very end of the half as well, to tie things up 3-3 between themselves and the Black Dragons. If they can iron it down, though, gonna be going back into that very same halftime position that they were at back on Theme Park as the lead 4-2 going on to the attacking side of Villa here. As far as the Black Dragons are concerned, a few other change-ups to their lineup for this last attack as well. The Jackal coming in for Basetto to track out the roam game in the early round from W7M. And as well, when they're ready for the execute downstairs, Patoxy will have those Candelas to add to the equation also.
Well, we saw the patience worked out for Black Dragons last time. They've added Jackal this time for Basetto. I really, really like this pick, as long as he doesn't lose his noggin to Herds here. We'll have some practically guaranteed info. A lot of damage coming in on Herds now. in the bore window. Julio going to be on the pulse for this one as he's extending himself out into the living room area. They are obviously in that kitchen dining space, but this means that Ion, although he doesn't think that he's been found, he will surely be soon. And there it is, the sign of a good pulse player. Got to be checking your surroundings constantly. He's going to keep a bead on him. The Nitro's still out, but he's already walked away. Julio, he went for it, but Ion, he's got that sixth sense. He walks back inside, saving his own life.
First Candela dunked in here, trying to get some control over towards Master Bathroom. We'll see if this translates very, very well, as W7M still going to be flushed back towards it, to the inside of the Astro room itself and the stairwell. As another Candela seems to have echoed out as well to allow more players in. Keezy was still a very confident hold behind the Astro desk, though. They are not giving away this room unless they are forced to. They're perfectly fine to take this duel here. I believe that Keezy has the hatch to fall back from as well, and I think he just used it. So he's going to be able to rotate back out of there, get himself out of the tough situation, and feels he's confidently wasted enough time away from Black Dragons to go for that move now.
I love the confidence here from W7M, playing out the situation to its absolute limit without punishing yourself. They delay all of that time. Black Dragons, they only have a minute remaining, and look at what W7M have been able to accomplish, especially with the pulse play here. Julio's going to keep things lined up. They still have that impact from Herds. He's going to use it out of the art vault, or the gallery. Nice little angle here. Could be the kill he's looking for in Paris. He steps up to the plate, but it's a home run for Herds. Patoxy trying to work his way down Astro stairs. He has the Candelas out. He'll pop one, drops a smoke, but Black Dragons, they haven't hopped two just yet. Trying to use the verticality. They'll finally get a kill back into their favor. The smoke will deal some damage. A Banshee down. They know Ion's inside of the bathroom now.
Down to the null timer here as Ion tries to make his play forward, enters into the site, but all on his lonesome. Where's the rest of the team moving forward? Ion won't even succeed as well. The kill feed goes all blue here. It's 4 kills back to back to back in the favor of W7M, retaking that control and locking in the very same halftime scoreline that we had on map number 1. They lead 4-2 over their opponents here, just 3 rounds to go, and they're in the semifinals already.
Black Dragons doing a whole lot of nothing that round. It's a lot of droning, a lot of, kind of positioning, and that was really it. I mean, they weren't able to get anything done to the actual setup of W7M, and that's really what punished them. W7M were able to set pace that entire round, and they honed it. They controlled it, especially with their top floor hold that got down in that last minute. Black Dragons, they didn't know where the rest of them really were. Pulse able to read out a lot of the positioning, and also some big plays there from Herds as well. Really loved that last little pokeball he had in the back pocket to be able to open things up towards the red hallway over on that portion of the map, punishing Black Dragons as they were simply looking for anything that could be gifted over to them, something to light the powder keg, but all they found was their demise. A 4-2 half here for W7M. After all of that, Black Dragons not looking the greatest, but the good news is that we have switched sides, so got a completely different perspective now and a chance to run up some rounds early here.
Black Dragons, of course, with a little bit of a different perspective in terms of how they wanted to set things up here inside of AVG as well, playing more into their utility and more into the delay that can come from that utility, opening up opportunities for them to potentially swing behind them too, such as the Goyo cans that are going to be coming out from Ion, giving them that nice separation between them and their opponents when W7M feels they're going to be ready to push past one of the points where they set up one of those canisters. The mirror window is quite obviously giving them the vision they need into some of these initial clears, and of course, probably against the study play as well to allow BD to have that initial intel to swing out with also. Plenty more of that too, between the usual setup that we have for this team, even over to the Warden for Patoxy could be good in the event they get flashed or smoked up. In fact, we do have the smokes in place. There's a very good chance that comes in to help things out in the midst of the actual site execute.
Well, JV is going to take a page out of the book that we were talking about earlier. They won't have the Lion, but they're going to have the Doke, and they also have the opening kill on Paris. A huge pick. Not something we saw too often from Black Dragons at this time. W7M have it done before the first minute has even been eclipsed. They're able to get back into the drone game immediately. I don't even think that they've used any of Doke's utility either. So all of this really favoring the offense at the current moment.
Lyon trying to swing forward here, make a big play for Black Dragons. Patoxi's been able to hold his own over by Death's Door, but very much on his own, playing that position right now. Either way, the kill has forced back some hesitance from W7Ms. They don't want to try to re-peek that immediately and give away the player advantage they were working with as of a few moments prior. Julio with the nade dunk going back in over towards the corner will knock them out. Should be able to deal with it. I believe a Goyo canister is what it ended up taking down there, if I heard the sound cue correctly. Phone call also going to work its way out against Black Dragons. Now they try to suss out the initial positions of these players inside of the site. Volps using those explosive charges on the lifeline to also take out some of the utility, blocking the way by Death's Door itself.
And what a terrible operator to get picked for W7M as well. Herds, the ace down, no longer having that hard breach, but I do believe he ended up getting one of the study walls open. KZ, here's a phone call down low. I think the audio might be leaking through for Nate. Actually, no, Patoxi's going to be down there. Gets his Nitro cell to take out JV92, but KZ, he's creeping up. Going to take some shots from through the soft paneling. Ion with a beautiful shot of his own. Julio there to try and get it back, though. And this has been something we've been seeing constantly from W7M. Their positioning with each other has been fantastic throughout this entire game. And you can see Julio going for it once again. He wants to help out Volps. There's no point of him playing that other door. He's got the case on him as well. They're going to have to try and take this as a collective unit. Otherwise, they're going to run into some serious problems.
As we saw here, losing the ace was a big issue now for W7M to be able to open up an area like the bar or potentially the supply closet for themselves. But Volps nicely done on the entry yet again, clears the way for his teammate to be able to go for the plant or at least start the process of it. Nitro will interrupt things yet again. Volps needs to hold the line here. The wrap already being made over towards Study. The peek from the first player. The second, we're going to try to interrupt the plant. It does not work out. Nade can't get the exchange on the supporting player, but he does find the planter, bringing it down into a 1v1 now. Volps versus Nade to clutch this one out. Nade will waste no time. Immediately jumps on the counter defuse. Here comes the swing from Volps. He's going to go directly into it, and it's an attempt to stick it, but it won't work out. W7M keeps their lead and gets that much closer to a semifinal.
Oh man, you have to feel for the mirror right there, John. Those holes that he was looking through right before he gets on plant, well, those tend to mess with audio quite a bit. So as he's coming up that stairwell, the mirror's just thinking to herself, she's like, is he downstairs? Is he? I'm just gonna stick it. I'm gonna stick it because if I don't, then I could run into a lot of problems here. Unfortunately enough for him, immediately busts through the door and is able to take him down. And this is looking very similar to Theme Park. Very similar occurrences across the board. Practically scripted with this 5-2 lead for W7M.
Let's see here if they can lock in the next two back-to-back, or if Black Dragons are going to come back with a bit more fight here. Of course, they won't be retrying the same site hold back over on the inside of AVG. They work themselves into Statue Trophy, as one would expect them to rotate towards. Already having used their pause earlier on in the half, they're not going to have any moment of relief here, so they do realistically need to play into the best site possible for themselves.
Now here's the wildest thing about W7M that we've been seeing for the majority of this tournament. It's the consistency of the entire roster. I want you to look at KZ right now. What do you notice? KZ not hot to trot at the current moment, 2-4-2, but you look to the rest of the leaderboard here, and we have some hot contestants. We have Volps with a 7-3, and we've got Herds on a 9-4 heater. They step up when they are needed. This team across the board lights out when it comes down to it. They look like they want to try and end it early here. KZ, he's already inside, John. He's got a mirror window to his advantage, but luckily enough, Basetto, he knows what's going on, and so does the rest of Black Dragons. They saw that rush coming from a mile away. The Gun 6, really the call sign for that.
Seems like it's a bit too direct here, unfortunately, from W7M. They get caught this time around here. Obviously, KZ with the right to initiate when he walked directly into Trophy and didn't face any resistance, initially there. Thought they were going to be in a good spot to be able to take control of the site, even get an early plant for themselves, but just a little bit too much confidence flowing out from them, and now they pay the price for it. Putting the pressure on Herds, Volps, and JV to now make up for the difference with the remaining 2 minutes they have.
Well, if there's one thing about this roster that we know, they're not going to slow down. Might use some drones and some other things. Might use this next 45 seconds to know exactly what Black Dragons is up to. But the aggression is coming. I can definitely guess that. Here it comes from Volps initially. No damage onto his opponent, just a tag onto him, and actually it's going to be Herds trying to transition across the bus door. That dies first, but Toxie will take him down. No more EE1Ds in the pockets of JV92, and a flawless round possibly in the wings for Black Dragons, but Toxie will confirm it. A good way to bounce back here for our other Brazilian squad.
Be a nice little confidence booster for the Black Dragons, but if we're real about ourselves, the problem is W7M walked themselves into that situation there by trying to play it so straightforwardly into Trophy through the connector there. There was really no recovering, unfortunately, from that point once they had lost the 2 players initially. So it's just a matter of them trying to look for picks across the map, hoping they would get lucky, and maybe that would open up an opportunity to come back another round, but it just never really happened. So
yeah, exactly. Right when the rush strategy didn't work for KZ, they're like, all right, I guess we're just going to try a couple things. If it doesn't work, then we'll reset for the next round.
Kind of play for picks. If we get anything cool, maybe we're in the game. If not, then the round is pretty much over, guys. Sorry.
I mean, hey, man, it's worked for him for... well, since September 25th. So, I mean, like, I'd say they're doing pretty well with it. I think that their overall thought process about the game, pretty high tier at the current moment.
All right, well, let's see here if W7M can keep themselves relatively flawless in terms of their match record. Once again, just need those 2 rounds to be able to close things down here. Some interesting developments going to be going on in their operator selection, by the way. Lion going to be coming into place of the Dokkaebi. They feel like that intel is going to be a little bit more direct for themselves. The Montaigne is going to come out as well for Julio. So we'll have to see how that will potentially play out for their push to the inside of these 2 sites. And then finally, Herd's going to continue to be sneaky. This is kind of an expected move to see from him, obviously, with Herd not being banned out. The Nook will come out to try and see if they can sneak any kills out through the basement or another avenue that they'll find appropriate to insert that operator into.
Yeah, KZ more of a sledgehammer when it comes to his Nook play. Herd's a little more methodical. You know, he comes in with the surgical plays. I'm going to build all this up, and he's going to plow right through that window, isn't he? Stop, Hertz, don't do this to me, please.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, he's really leaving me in suspense, isn't he?
Absolutely the case. So once again, folks, this is an observer bug we're dealing with at the beginning of every round. Sorry for the little jitters. Obviously, we have people working on that one. We're going to fix it as soon as possible, but we are in the process, I think, of tracking down what's causing that right now, and then we'll try to correct it as soon as possible. As far as we know, the players are not experiencing that delay, so it should not be compromising the integrity of this match.
Yes, indeed, my friend. Julio, been magic with Monty for a long time in his career. Bring that one back out to bear, and he's going to be able to get a Mira window because of it. Nice little counter that's been built into Mira over the last couple of years here. You're actually able to smack those windows and take away the vision that she so badly wants. Concussions in here. Will it deal with Paris? Oh, Paris will deal with Volps. How about that for a change? Black Dragons once again lead off with the opening pick. The last one gifted to them. This one earned.
Black Dragons definitely a much more confident showing on the defensive side here with regard to their early round plays. Maybe part of the reason why we see the Montaigne picked in to try and fend off some of this early aggression, or at least counter it directly, of course, by putting a shield in front of the pushes. Nitro there that Stokes winced at a little bit. He got very close to taking down the player on
I had PTSD for a second. I'm sorry, my bad.
Thankfully able to dodge that, though, get out of the way, and W7M will still be only 1 player down this time. And, oh, that's so annoying for Julio now.
That is the classic way to deal with a Monty. Right there, John. You want to see what year 1 Siege looked like? It was that right there. You put a Nitro cell at the door, and you're like, what are you going to do now, you big shield man? Probably nothing. Or you're probably going to have one of your friends deal with it, and that's exactly what is going to happen.
They just tried to go and 6 it out. Unsure if the
Don't ask questions.
would have worked for it, but we'll check that in a minute. Yeah, it looks like it worked. Okay, so possibly like banging it against the wall or something and having it work that way, but it works. That's what's important here. And Herd's now picking up the next kill. Awkward little toxic bait bounce there as Julio pushes it onto the vault door. But it will still allow them to move their way into the site. And once again, the kills are now flowing all in the favor of W7M. JV with back-to-back frags. Only Ion and Perez in the fray now. One of them trying to make a wrap over towards 90, but doubling back as it was Ion that went for it here. Perez gonna make the, thought it was gonna be an unexpected play, but KZ with a good read into it here. Monty versus Ion for the end of the round, and Julio will instead close it down there with the Monty.
How insufferable is Julio's Monty? Do you see his positioning with that thing? It is just so gross. I have always despised people that can play Monty that well. It's just pure hatred from me. Not for Julio, but I'm just saying, like, as shield operators go, my God, is that annoying. W7M with a 3-round lead. They're looking to close this one out with BD not only potentially getting 5 rounds in 2 maps.
W7M still looking to move themselves forward in flawless fashion, I believe, as well. As Stokes mentioned before, didn't drop a single map inside of the group stage, and now looking to do the same here for the quarter. We'll have to see how long they can keep that record flowing, of course, as the perfect run to the grand finals would certainly be a storyline to talk about if they should make it that far, of course.
Absolutely, and that means if they do close this out, that is 8 maps in a row here at Jönköping. That is disgusting stuff. And as you said, they've only dropped like 1 map, 2 maps maybe, but they haven't lost a match. in the last couple of months, back to September 25th. Once again, for those of you who are just joining us. And, well, if you are, you more than likely are missing out. W7M has been running amok of things up against Black Dragons. It's been fantastic across the board from the entire team. KZ not having to carry the entire team this time as, well, doesn't really happen. Usually the entire team carrying the torch. Him just not as much as we're used to. Usually we are used to KZ up there in like the 17 kill department. It's just a little bit slower for him this time around. Black Dragons, they're going to be able to get the lead off pick, but for W7M, doesn't really mean too much to the overall story, does it?
Already one kill going out against W7M, and utility-wise, it's a pretty big loss as well. We're going to see those air jabs removed from play entirely before the round even really gets started. Volps won't be able to contribute as well. Volps a huge part of the attacking entry game for W7M in the previous map as well, so losing him is going to put a massive dent in the potential aggressive prowess that we were going to be getting out of W7M throughout the course of this round. Black Dragons should be able to come alive because of that a little bit more. He'll see if they try to get any more aggressive since they already have the opening kill in their pocket. It's basically their decision if they want to risk it now.
Yes, indeed. W7M, they're going to take their time past this first pick. Herds 10 and 5. Been playing so very well here today. Looks like they want to try and build up here. Try and clear out this top floor. Got a good sense of what's going on up here. It's going to be KZ on a solo mission. W7M in through Master. Loses his health sense, but he's going to continue on. The Banshee will discover him. They quickly whip out the Deagle just to get a little bit more movement speed. Able to skimper off here, not die to that angle. Does have EMPs in his pocket, so he can get rid of this Banshee if he so chooses, but obviously pretty loud detail there if he goes for it. W7M playing this one pretty close to the chest over on the Master side of the building. Not really wanting to go for this execution just yet. Ion doing a very good job of trying to keep things slow on this top floor.
KZ back outside as W7 are going to reposition. Looks like a majority laundry push is what we're going to ultimately end up getting from the squad, as I feel like that's the safest path forward. Beautiful nade thrown in from up on top still, I think. By Herds there, it knocks out Basetto. Deals with at least one element of this defense that could have caused problems inside of the plant. Herds as well, just slamming the aim down right onto Ion, knocks him out. W7M now in front of the situation here as it's brought down to a 4v3 in their favor, and JV right off the shield. Nade peeks directly into it. Perez opens up his own death window to KZ, excuse me, and that's just going to leave Potoxi in it now for the 1v4. Good start to it as he knocks down one player, but can't take it any further than that. W7M are seemingly unstoppable here in Jönköping as they shut down the group stage and now shut down their quarterfinal opponent. They're moving forward to the semis.
The undefeated Brazilians continue on. Indomitable here. All the way up to semi-finals. Headed off by the Lion KZ, but they didn't even need him in this last map. Able to get some things done in that last round, but really the showcasing of Herds and just how much talent they have on this roster overall. Such an amazing team. Cannot wait to see who they play up against in the semifinals.
Yeah, we know it's going to be another Latin American team. It's going to be between, of course, FaZe or Liquid. So we'll have to see who ends up topping out that matchup. That is bound to be a very explosive game as well. Two of the largest names, I guess you could say, inside of Latin America going up against each other was such a huge storyline, especially, of course, behind Team Liquid. They are another team that has been looking to lift that trophy at an actual major for a very, very long time.
Nest needs ones, man. Yep. Nest needs one.
And really, the Pro League Finals, I think, a few years back, going way back to like 2018, I think is when they were able to win that one. But since
quite
then,
some time.
have not been able to capture one under our new major system. So they're going to be looking to take it just as much as W7M is looking for that potential perfect tournament run. We've got a lot of cool storylines building up. That's only one half of the bracket that we're talking about right now, too. We still have the EU and North American teams and APAC teams waiting down on the other side of it as well with the way that the bracket panned out.
Yes, we do. And you know, it's really cool, honestly, you know, all circumstances given, that the entirety of this roster, W7M, have to try and run this Brazilian gauntlet in order to make it to grand finals. It's almost poetic in a way. They have to try and go up against their own region that, as you said, knows them so well, right? I mean, they play against each other all the time. They just got done with Copa about a month ago, and here they are having to do it all again. But as we just saw, W7M able to take it up against Black Dragons, and what a nice sight right there, right?
Yeah, really, you know, the camaraderie between the Latin American teams teams has always been shown front and forward. They've talked about this too when they were like really dominating back in 2021, and to be fair, they've continued that domination a little bit here in 2022 about how they work together as a region. They're trying to build each other up, and that's why they felt that they have been so successful in the previous competitive year. And generally, I tend to agree with that sentiment when you look at some of the other regions. There's a lot of competition, sometimes there's like bad blood and whatnot between the teams as well, and it doesn't boil over into a lot of inter-regional cooperation, but it seems like it's there to a pretty nice extent inside of the Rainbow Six Latin American community. Either way, folks, we do have an interview waiting down on the stage with our winners. I believe it's going to be Julio leading that interview, so let's go ahead down.
Now, who else would I be joined on the stage by than W7M's Julio? I mean, what a fantastic performance. Make it nice for Julio, please. You are on a potential history-making, undefeated run at the moment. How much are you and your teammates enjoying the momentum?
Like each win, we get more confident. So we are like, I don't even know how many, 18. So we are like really confident. We fixed our map pool, so like the confidence is high as possible, you know.
8 now maps on the bounce that you haven't dropped. Does it come with pressure? Is there any part of you starting to think, we really don't want, we want to keep this run going?
Yeah, for sure, we're so confident, you know, like nothing goes wrong, even if we, like, it's like 5-2 to the guys, like the BDS matches, we played good and we know we always can win the rounds. And yeah, we are pretty confident, like I said, the maps, you know, I think first map we play, the first one, I forgot, Theme Park,
yes,
first
yeah.
time, and it was a good map, you know, so like we want to show our maps and we are ready.
It seems as though since you came into this roster, you've made a tremendous difference. How much do you think that the teammates around you are benefiting from your tremendous experience within this game?
I think inside the game they were really good. I think smart things outside the game, you know, little small things that I can fix and I can I experienced that, so I can show them without them experiencing and experiencing again. And I think it's more like this, you know. In game, they were already the best in Brazil.
Yeah.
But outside of the game, like the mood of the team, you know, things like that, small things to, like playoffs now. I have a lot of experience. They just play one, and some small things, you know. But like, I didn't change a lot of the team, you know. Just improving little things that needed to be improved, you know.
It seems as though the team, in general, is very cool, calm, and collected. You know, everybody's smiling, everybody looks very happy to be here and are enjoying the process. What's it like behind the scenes? Like, how are you preparing for each of these games?
Yeah, everyone's really young, you know, so they are really just enjoying. They know they have a really long career. They know it's not going to be the last tournament for them. So they're just enjoying, you know, little kids enjoying the game, and it's always fun. We have Igor, our coach, and Abreu. They do a really good job, you know, pre-game. So like we are 100% ready when the game starts.
For some of these youngsters around you, this is, you know, a huge event, and it is for you as well. As a former world champion yourself, what does this event mean to you, and what would it mean to lift that trophy?
I think individually means a lot because it was a lot of ups and downs this year, and end with a up is really good, you know. But I'm just enjoying, you know. I was like almost retired, so anything that happens, I'm happy with this, you know. I'm just flowing.
I don't think anybody wants you to retire, bro.
No. If I retire as a player, I'm going as a coach, you know. Igor CTG, our coach. Watch out, man. I'm a good coach too.
Now, it would be a history-making major if you somehow managed to get to the grand final and complete your mission without dropping a map. What would that mean to you if you could pull that off?
I think it's something we don't care much about like that. If you win, it's just a little plus, you know, without losing a map. But it's awesome, like breaking records, like the group stage. We won all 6 matches without overtime. So it's a little plus, but the focus is winning the tournament for sure. The rest is just the plus.
Final question. Who do you think is your biggest threat here in the playoffs?
Biggest threat? I think seeing the group stage, I think Liquid. FaZe is a really good playoff team too. I really like TSM. I like them, and I know they can show up in playoffs. You know, they won the Invitational. I think all the teams, Sonics,
yeah.
Wolves, and BDS, don't have weak things now, you know? All good things.
Everyone's a threat.
Yes, everyone's a threat.
Well, congratulations again to W7M. Congratulations to Julio. Commiserations to, of course, Black Dragons. We will pick this game apart. We'll pick apart that best of 3 that we just saw, our first quarterfinal on the desk, over to the sexy man that is Milos.
Thank you very much, Steve. Ian, I don't know which one it is. Hello, welcome back to the Analyst Desk. I'm Ostamatic, your host, and with me to break things down are Alfama and Fresh. They're on a tear. W7M absolutely destroying everybody here. The only undefeated team that we've had really in the history of Siege up to this point. We'll see if that continues throughout the whole tournament, but they definitely have proved a point.
Absolutely, yes. I think they proved such a gap there was between them and Black Dragons. I don't think it's on Black Dragons' fault either. I think we've not seen a team being that dominant in a while. They give me all G2 vibes right now, to be honest. It was showing when Black Dragons were playing on Villa, right? Struggling to get in the map, a bit stressed, a bit of whiff. I don't think they really managed to fully reset and recover from the first map.
Yeah, it's, you know, when you said it's like old G2 vibes, old G2 vibes was, we're just going to run through our opponent. Doesn't matter what they do, how they do it, we're going to do our thing, and we're just going to run through them. And W7M have done that today. They looked so composed.
So cozy.
I was trying to say confident and composed in the same thing.
I mean, they're relaxed when they play. You can see it. They're just having fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, they've got the people that back it up. They've got the players that are putting in. And one thing I really wanted to do was get on the Telestrate and Telestrate won the games because they were so explosive. There would have been fire all over that Telestration screen because they just have these big moments of just explosion of multi-kill. And they look unstoppable. Now, we might be speaking about them tomorrow in a completely different vein going up against FaZe or Liquid, who's just walked into the arena. But at the minute, that was an incredible performance put on by them.
All right, great to hear here. Now, Black Dragons, we have to make it clear. This is their first event. They've been shuffling, what, through 20 players over the past year?
Yeah, it's 20 players and staff, right?
There you go, 20 players and staff in less than a year. They made it to their first major and directly into playoffs. That is not something that you can ever take away from them, Dave.
And it's already so much progress to just have built that team consistently for 9 months, steadily improving, qualifying to the major at the end of the year. I think this is an amazing learning experience for them, and I'd like to see them more in the upcoming year, qualifying to more majors, taking more experience, and eventually leading to qualifying to semis, right?
Doing it with an identity, right? Doing it with a, not just, and I mean this with the greatest possible respect, not just another Latin American team. A Latin American team that wants to play things like OSA, to play for the plants, to play for the objective. It maybe cost them at times, but they stayed true to their identity even in this best of 3. And that's absolutely commendable for them.
All right, I'm wondering who are the top performers of this matchup. Wow, it would be very crazy if we had a match summary that would go up on the screen for us to see. I wonder if there's similar players to our first matchup that we had, our first map of this series. Oh, here it comes, and there it is. Volps now on the top. Actually, a complete reversal, at least scoreboard-wise, of what we had in map number 1. But that reflects even more what Alfama was saying at the end of it, is that this W7M is a whole team, not just a two-man show.
Yeah, everybody is able to perform, and they're fitting exactly what the meta is right now, which means 4 players that are flexible, that have huge fragging ability, and then that one hard support player that is in Julio. I actually really liked what he said in his interview. He said, I didn't change much in-game because they were already the best team in Brazil, but I brought a lot of new stuff outside of the game, and I optimized everything so that reached that final step, right?
And that's what he's there for. Like, if you saw these guys in Charlotte when they're getting very over and emotional and they're letting it affect how they play inside of the server, Julio's come in and he's allowed them to operate in that very consistent middle range. They're not getting way too excited. They're not getting way too upset if they lose. They're just in the middle and they're consistently good now.
Is part of it just taking the phone away from certain player? You're not allowed to tweet for the next 2 hours before the game and after the game.
I think it will just be friendly words of advice, right? It will just be, look, I've been here forever. Here's my experience of this.
And I have actually a funny anecdote of that. It was at a really major, I think, and I started yelling, and we were in group stage. I started yelling every round we're winning. And Rise tells me, Leo, you know, calm down. Yeah, it's group stage. You need to save your energy right now. This is exactly the kind of advice I see Julius saying to his new teammates.
All right, and it's all working out quite well for them. So now this is the big challenge. They've proven they can take it into BO3, but is Black Dragons the real challenge they're waiting for? No, it is not. It's Liquid and FaZe, which is our game for later, but I just want to quickly pick your brains at this. How do you see this going? Because FaZe dismantled W7M in Berlin.
Yeah, in my opinion, I saw a first limit here. 7-2-7-3 scoreboard, you're like, how did you see a limit to their playstyle? Well, actually, and that's a really symptom of a team that's trying to control the pace all the time, is that over-aggression and overconfidence might be an issue against a better team like Liquid or FaZe Clan that has more experience, especially Liquid that's steady and has a strategic approach, and that is punishing movement a lot. That might be scary for W7M if they don't watch out for that over-aggression.
W7M are probably hoping Liquid win this. If we look at this bracket, because it's Liquid or FaZe coming up. W7M are unbeaten against Liquid this year. However, FaZe, like you say, they've got a bit of a mental block against FaZe where they're losing against them in BR6, they're losing against them in majors. They did obviously beat them in Copa Elite, but that's after everyone's qualified for the majors. It gets a bit loose and fast in Copa Elite. So I think that's the big chance for W7M, is that mental block that might happen if they come up against FaZe tomorrow.
I'm not sure that mental block exists anymore. I just feel like they're so, like Julius said, they're so full of confidence right now. I feel like this is the right timing for them to take on FaZe and actually take their revenge from Berlin.
This is starting to sound like Team 1 back in Mexico. But you know what? We'll just leave it there because we have more games to go through. 3 more. This was a very quick one, I gotta say. But we continue on with more Brazil action, and it's Liquid versus FaZe. So in a few, we'll be back on stage to introduce the players. So see you in a bit.